Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we have another Starfield review to react to. Today we're going to be reacting to Doktor Skipper's Starfield is Outdated and Overrated. First, I want to say there's going to be a link to his channel in the description below. Make sure to go check out his original video and some of his other content as well. Also, shout out to my boy Hobo Ryan. He was the one who sent this to me a couple nights ago and said I needed to watch this. So, it's either going to be really good or really bad. We'll have to find out. Also, just a reminder, just because people have a different opinion than us doesn't mean it's an excuse to bully them, right? So, obviously, I love Starfield. Just based on the title of this video, this person does not. It's just a difference of opinion, and that's really what it comes down to. So just remember to be civil in the comments, and especially in their comment section as well.
Mentioning Starfield to a person is like flipping a coin. Either you get a passionate rant about how the game cured their illness and made them find God, or you get a passionate rant about how it killed their entire family and burned down their village.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, this is somehow one of the most divisive games I have ever seen. Maybe not the most divisive, but it is definitely up there. Like, there are people that, like me, who have dropped almost 200 hours into the game, and, like, I genuinely mean it. I think Starfield is going to be one of my favorite games of all time. Then you have people that just absolutely despise this game, and I think there are some people that are in the middle, like, yeah, it's just 5 to 7, which is fair as well. I don't remember the last time there was a game that was, like, so divisive. But do you guys? Remind me in the comments if I'm forgetting something that's happened recently.
You can current day us! Pronouns! Current day California!
Sorry, I haven't talked about the pronouns guy, but, like, how just absolutely ridiculous this man's rant was. All of the memeing that this man got was definitely deserved. Maybe not. I do feel like maybe he got some excessive hate, right? Like, and that's not okay. But the memes are definitely deserved.
We're boring!
I see this as beautiful personally, that some are so passionate to love or hate.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know I keep pausing. We're only 23 seconds into the video. I haven't watched any of Doktor Skipper's videos before. I really like his editing style.
Video game. While everyone else on the outside looking in are just wondering, what the hell caused everyone to get this passionate in the first place? That's why. The last time a Bethesda game came out was 8 years ago. The last time a Bethesda...
No, shut your face! No! Was 76... I'm sorry, was 76 really 2015? There's no way. Okay, no, Fallout 76 was a 2018 game. I think he was referencing Fallout 4 was 2015. Let me go back a second.
That's why. The last time a Bethesda game came out was 8 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. It says Fallout 4 when he shows the date. I just saw Fallout 76 here and assumed.
The last time a Bethesda game came out that wasn't a buggy mess was 8 years ago. I give up. Fallout 4 came out 8 years ago. A lot of people skipped 76 because Rick and Morty weren't enough to convince people to buy this dumpster fire.
Ninja maybe has some
Shut up, Pete!
Finally, representation.
Then in 2018, the first new Bethesda IP in the last 20 years was announced. Said to be Todd Howard's baby and magnum opus. It was trademarked.
I do think announcing it back in 2018 was way too soon. Way too soon. Maybe it was a marketing strategy thing. Like, I don't know if it was announced before or after 76's launch, but either way, it definitely feels like a reaction to 76. Like, if it was before it launched, it was probably a, well, we know people aren't gonna like this, so let's give them something else to look forward to. Or, like, they can play it and say, oh, I don't like this, but Starfield's coming out. Or they could, or if they released the trailer after, it was a reaction, just, hey, we know you hate this, but we have more coming.
Marked in 2013 and then entered development in 2016, but had been a concept in the dome of Todd for about 25 years.
I was writing games when I was, 12, whatever. The other kids in the block would say, I'm gonna play quarterback for the Cowboys, and I'd be like, I'm gonna make video games, and everyone's gonna play them. You dork. Go back to the chess club. Who's laughing now?
The game was going to release in 2020.
Okay, we all have to relate to Todd a little bit, right? I know we meme on Todd, but there's got to be a little jealousy inside all of us, right? Like, were we not all Todd at some point saying, we're going to create something so amazing that everyone plays? Now, I will admit, Todd has his flaws. I'm not saying he's perfect, but I think we all can see a little bit of ourselves in Todd, right?
22, but then got delayed a whole year so that they could squash and exterminate all the little bugs that got caught in the webs. And now after all this time, the game is out for you to play. Starfield, a Bethesda RPG in space. Is extremely overrated and really outdated and not that good. When an NBA player...
This video is about Starfield, that's for sure. Again, like I said earlier, this is really going to come down to personal opinion. He thinks it's outdated, overrated, and not good, and that's perfectly valid. Like, I think it's amazing and one of the best games ever, and that's valid too, you know? It's just personal preference. I remember one of my first Starfield videos, somebody was called the game trash, and I was like, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And then me and this person just like talked for a couple more comments. It was great.
Player needs to hit a buzzer beater to win a game, and that's when everything becomes most crucial. Can you keep under pressure when the lights are shining brightest? Look, I'm not Luka Doncic. None of you could compare to greatness like that, but I am Doktor Skipper. And something I live for is when everyone is diluted and I feel like a crazy person. Every single one of these videos was made during honeymoon phases, and taking a stance during a honeymoon phase is the most dangerous. You want to know something I hate in this world? Glazing.
Can I talk my shit again?
Can't stand it. Meat riding, glizzy gobbling, call it whatever you want. Can't stand it. You know what else I hate? Obnoxious opportunist. If you think a balding man-child...
I completely agree. Like, I love Starfield so much. But there's a reason that I've made multiple videos talking about, like, features that we need in the game, stuff they need to add in DLC. I did a whole video on crafting. Like, it is an amazing game, but it is not a perfect game. And at the same time, there are people that are hating on it just to hate it. Like, my beat-em-ups video, it's so funny because, like, I disagreed with a lot he had to say, and in the video, like, he was just wrong about a lot of stuff. Like, not being able to jump over the walls in Aquila City, which you 100% can do. You just have to be in the right spot. Where he was trying to jump over the walls, it was just too high of a wall. He couldn't boost over. He just needed to go somewhere else where he could actually, like, step on something to boost over. Anyway, but then after I made the video, I realized there were other things that he was wrong, that at this point I'd played, I think, the game almost 100 hours, and I didn't even realize. Like, New Atlantis, he was complaining about the only way you can get around New Atlantis is through the train. I'm sorry, Kaya is going crazy right now. Hello, little baby. And that's just not true. Like, the spaceport, yeah, because it's, like, lower in the city, you have to take the train up. But then once you're actually in the city, you can just walk from the mass district to the commercial district, or to the commercial district to the residency district. It's all connected. You don't have to take the train. And, like, I didn't even realize that at the time that I made that video after playing, like, 100 hours. And it was clear that beat-em-ups had played maybe just a couple hours. So how was he supposed to know, right? So there is just this crazy amount of people hating just to hate. And I want to be absolutely clear. There are people who validly hate this game or validly have critiques for this game. And that's perfect. But then there are other people who are just jumping on the bandwagon to either get views or because they're mad. Like the person that made 1,000 Metacritic accounts to bring the Metacritic score for Starfield down? That was crazy.
Screaming about roleplay options in a roleplay game is the prime example of a professional hater, then wait till you get a load of me. Because someday I'm gonna meet God, and when he asks why you didn't talk about Starfield in 2023, and I answer is because I didn't want to piss people off, it may not be a sufficient reply. Starfield is a game with a lot to talk about. It's not black and white despite whatever you might think.
Thank you! Also, what is this? I'm sorry, what?
Yes, Commander.
Excuse me? I demand you are in a position.
I didn't realize Catbug was sexist. I didn't know.
To demand nothing, kitchen wench.
But you don't get a say in this video, so shut up. There's layers to peel back and analyze on what this game achieves, while also discussing what it doesn't achieve and could do better. And while Starfield is an immersive game to some, it's also a restricted Disneyland ride that doesn't let you roleplay and experience its galaxy to the full potential of what it advertised, while also being plagued by Bethesda's outdated game design.
Yeah, it's so crazy because, like, I think that's something I've seen a lot of people talk about is the roleplay aspect of it, where, like, some people are just, like, deep in it. Like, I was able to roleplay this, like, bounty hunter, pirate hunter character, like, even after I've beaten all the main quests except for the Ryusian industry quest because it didn't really fit the character I was roleplaying as, so I didn't do that one. But all the other main quests I have finished, and the last, like, 50 hours of my gameplay has just been mostly doing the bounty hunting, like the bounty boards, and going on missions and killing pirates and Varun zealots, and it's exactly what I was wanting to do with my character, and I love that. But then there are other people that, like, just cannot get into it, and I think that's valid, and I just think it's so crazy that, like, this game is built in such a way that, like, so many people are able to really get into the role-playing, and so many people aren't. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, though, because, like, I really loved Skyrim. I want to say I put close to 40 hours, maybe 41 hours into Skyrim, so nothing too crazy for a game of that size, but I really enjoyed the time that I was able to spend in it. But I just was not able to roleplay at all. Like, I could not get into the character. And I think that's one reason that, like, I didn't play Skyrim more. And so I don't think this is a Starfield specific issue. I think it's just like a Bethesda RPG thing. Like, you either are going to be able to successfully roleplay in it or you're not. But I don't think this is a Starfield specific issue. Also, Doktor Skipper, 53 videos and 190,000 subscribers. Congratulations, my friend. And I can see why. Like I said before, I really like his editing style. His audio's really good. I love the bird. I mean, we're a bird-themed channel here too. So really, go subscribe to Doktor Skipper. And I was seeing the title. I really thought this was just going to be like a I hate this game kind of a video, but I really like his more balanced approach so far.
Oh, no, please don't kill me, please, no, I don't want to die, please don't kill me, please don't.
And these problems aren't a jump scare in the slightest. The problems of Starfield have been cruising for a bruising from those tunnel snakes for a minute. And that kettle has been boiling since 2008. But it's 2023 now, and Bethesda has a blood trail of mistakes and messes that haven't all of a sudden disappeared because we're in space now. But I'm him, so grab a snack, get a blanket and a soda, and tag along as we go down this rabbit hole.
You guys, my recording is 15 minutes, and we aren't even past this man's intro. This is gonna be a long one.
And while we're at it, you're gonna subscribe, and you're gonna f***ing like it. Ooh, sorry. just had to get through that intro, my good friend. Starfield is a great display of Bethesda magic. The last time Bethesda received proper flowers was for Skyrim, which even at the time had a lot of regression from Morrowind and Oblivion. But Skyrim was the first game to fully nail down Bethesda magic. And before Skyrim, you had Fallout 3, which was the beginning of Bethesda magic, and in between those two, you had Obsidian's Fallout New Vegas, which showed that smoke and mirrors of Bethesda magic could actually become a reality if you put in the effort. But when you look at Bethesda's recent catalog, you notice a bad trend that runs through them. Every Bethesda game is outdated, outshined, and doesn't do anything innovative. But what they are successful at is Bethesda magic. I know you're getting tired of.
Okay, I don't know if this is the angle he's gonna go at, but if I'm being honest, a lot of people have been trashing on Bethesda's engine. They need to update their engine. And yeah, you know what? Maybe they do need to update it. I don't hate it, though. Again, I don't just put 170 hours into a game that feels bad to play. Starfield, of course, could be better in certain aspects, but, like, it still just feels so good to play. I think, though, the angle he's going to go at here is maybe less the engine and more the actual, like, mechanics that they use. But let's just find out.
Of me saying this word over and over again without explaining what the hell it is. I'm sorry, let me explain what Bethesda Magic is. Bethesda Magic is a theme park ride. Ironically, Bethesda's making an Indiana Jones game, so let's use the Indiana Jones ride from Disneyland for this.
Okay, for clarification, and let me look this up, but I believe that it's not Bethesda proper. I believe it's Machine Games. Yes, okay, so Machine Games is publishing or developing the game, published by Bethesda. Okay, so Todd may have a hand in it, but I feel really confident. Machine Games absolutely crushed it with the new Wolfenstein games. I haven't played Youngbloods. I've only played a little bit of Old Bloods. I heard there's a lot of drama around Youngbloods, but Youngbloods was part of that weird Bethesda phase where they wanted everything to be like a multiplayer live-action game. That's where we got 76, Elder Scrolls Online, Redfall, Youngbloods, and there might have been more. That's all I can think of off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure now that Bethesda's a part of Microsoft and all those games have been finished and published, they're kind of past that era of their lifespan. And that's not even a Bethesda problem. I think that was a ZeniMax, upper management problem. But my whole point to this is I feel very confident about Machine Games' Indiana Jones.
Example. To ride Indiana Jones...
You wish.
Fucking quiz!
To ride the Indiana Jones attraction, the first thing you gotta do is wait in line. But the line is made to immerse you in the setting of this ride so that you forget that you're just in a queue for the main attraction. And when you get on the ride, you're full of joy and excitement as you tag along Indiana Jones to escape an adventure of fun and scary thrills. They're shooting blow darts, a giant boulder comes in, Harrison Ford is there for realsies, I swear to God, that's actually him! And then after the ride is over, a kid is gonna be ecstatic, thinking that everything that just happened was real, and now feels like a part of the story. And the adult who knows it's all fake had to be whipped and enslaved to afford these goddamn tickets. It's just happy that they got to have some fun while being immersed in fantasy before returning to a life of cold buds on the weekend and beating their wife. This is why people enjoy Bethesda games. Starfield, Fallout, Skyrim. Without game design, what are they to their core? Space, apocalypse, and fantasy. 3 settings, 3 RPGs, pick your poison. Bethesda games are...
That's something I've been really thinking a lot about lately. I think what it comes down to is there are going to be people that love Bethesda RPGs because they're Bethesda RPGs. And then I think there are going to be people who are attached to the scenario. I enjoyed Fallout 4 and I enjoyed Skyrim, but I didn't really get into them like I did with Starfield. And so I think it's less of this game's better than that game or this game's better than this one. I think it's more of what is your preferred role-playing scenario? Exactly what he's saying here. Is it space? Is it fantasy? Is it the apocalypse? And I think as they're expanding their IP, that this is going to be great for a lot of players because they're going to have the choice on which scenario, which setting they want to play the game. Something I've been saying a lot is everyone needs their favorite star. Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, Star Citizen, Starfield. I know there's more, but everyone has a favorite star. And just like that, I think everybody has a favorite Bethesda RPG, a favorite setting.
Because no one makes a Bethesda game like Bethesda. They're the only game studios that have really cool settings that allow you some control while also making you feel like an important piece in a big world with easy to control gameplay. None of them have groundbreaking combat, roleplay, graphics, or even exploration. But what they do have is groundbreaking manipulation. Just like my ex.
This poor man. I don't know where this is gonna be bad. This next clip. I paused at the wrong time. I completely agree. I think with RPGs, there's this weird game where you're playing where and this can be done. I'm not saying it can't, but there's this weird game developers are playing where it's we want to give players as much freedom as we possibly can, but we also want to give players a sense they're actually important, that they actually matter to the story, and that's something that's very important to balance. And I think Bethesda does it well, but I don't think they're the best in the industry that does it. I think Larian Studios, Baldur's Gate 3, I personally haven't played it. Again, like I said, I'm not a big fan of turn-based combat. But from what I've heard, like, in terms of the actual, like, storytelling and dialogue options, like, they have absolutely mastered it. And then, like, The Witcher 3, or just the Witcher series in general, I've heard is absolutely amazing. I couldn't really get into The Witcher 3. I felt like it suffered too much from the go-to-place, talk-to-person quest, which Starfield definitely suffers from as well. But I felt like The Witcher just really, really suffered from it. But I want to give The Witcher another try at some point, especially with their next-gen update. You know, and then Cyberpunk as well just had a massive update and DLC. I think they do it really well of making the character feel like they're important while still giving them freedom. It's something that's developers have to nail if they want their RPGs to work.
Ex-wife Rebecca, that stupid bitch. Fallout 4 in 2015 regressed massively
I told you guys I paused at the wrong time!
from New Vegas. It focused on being a shooter more than an RPG. It also released the same year as The Witcher 3, which exposed the game's problems massively, showing that Fallout 4 was already outdated when it launched in 2015. It was a bad RPG, the gunplay was mid, the graphics were nothing special. You gotta remember, Battlefront 2015 came out the same year for comparison. Like, look at...
Yeah, I will say that was one reason I didn't stick with Fallout 4. I think I played, I want to say, around 5 to 10 hours. I don't know exactly, because my save got deleted, and I will never forgive the person that deleted it. But I played about 5 to 10 hours, but the gunplay just wasn't the best. But I think in its defense, it's not necessary. Like, I don't think an RPG shooter needs to be as good as a dedicated shooter. Like, is it Battlefront or Battlefield? I think it's Battlefield. I swear I'm a Star Wars fan, you guys. I have a Star Wars podcast. Link in the description below. But a game like Battlefront, it has to excel in its shooting above all else, because that's the main reason you're there. An RPG isn't there. And I'm not saying an RPG shooting shouldn't be good. It should be, right? But I don't think it needs to be as good or as polished as a game that is, like, specifically just for shooting people. You know what I'm saying?
Look at Boba Fett in the snow. That's a man right there. The game was also a buggy mess, pushing Bethesda's old-ass engine to the limits. And even with all those faults, people were still in love with the Bethesda magic. New Vegas and Fallout 3 are ugly to look at and not very fun to play. Fallout 3 released a year after Halo 3, and Fallout New Vegas came out the same year as Red Dead Redemption and Halo Reach. And while I know New Vegas is an Obsidian game, it's Bethesda's assets and engine. My point is that Bethesda games have always had this problem. People today still play New Vegas because it offers a lot more than Fallout 3 in substance, but with Fallout 4 and all of its problems, a lot of people turned their brains off and shot their shots in Boston like they're fucking Larry Bird. You were
I'm gonna admit something to you guys, and I think I've talked about this on this channel or maybe on one of the podcasts before, but graphics are something that is very important to me. And I know that makes me a bad gamer. I know it makes me a bad gamer, but it's really hard for me personally to go back to an older game and enjoy it if I don't have a nostalgic connection. Like The Force Unleashed. I love The Force Unleashed, right? Because I grew up playing it. I played it at launch. It's one of the only games that I have beaten multiple times. And every couple of years, I re-download it, play through the whole thing, and re-beat it. But I think if I'd never played it, and I wouldn't played it now, and I saw the graphics, I'd probably be like, it's not for me. And again, I know that makes me a bad gamer. I know there's amazing experiences out there, but that's something that's important to me. Like, I had no nostalgic connection to Fallout New Vegas, and after I beat the Outer Worlds, I'd constantly heard people say that, like, Fallout New Vegas is a much better version of that, just in a different scenario. And I played for a couple hours, and I just didn't stick for me. And again, a lot of it's because of the graphics. And I'm sorry. I'm a fake gamer.
You're not really forced to care about anything else if you don't want to. You are the lone wanderer in the apocalypse.
Ready to fuck.
And you want to rescue your son, while also carrying the Celtics to a championship while drinking buds on the weekend. Also, this plot was done better in Finding Nemo. Hell, it even looks better in Finding Nemo, but you get the point.
I mean, he's not wrong. I will say, again, I didn't play a lot of Fallout 4, but I think that was the one thing that had me the most interested, was the whole you've got to go find your son subplot. That seemed really interesting. And I know it's not true, but I'd heard rumors that, or not rumors, I'd heard that Fallout 3 had something to do with a father-son relationship. So, like, I think this was like 2018. Yeah, this was 2018 at the time. I was like, oh, maybe Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 are connected, and maybe the son in Fallout 3 is the same son from Fallout 4, which I don't think that's the case. I mean, I could be wrong. I never made it far in either game, but just the mystery behind that is what was the most interesting to me.
I never knew my father.
The main reason why Fallout 76 failed is because it didn't have Bethesda magic. If the game was full of NPCs and pre-made decisions with a basic campaign, people would have loved that Indiana Jones ride.
It also launched way too early. I really, again, just, this is a problem with a ton of games, but specifically Bethesda and this whole, like, we need multiplayer, always online games. Fallout 76 and Redfall, both games that just came out way too early. Like, Redfall just had a massive update that's finally at 60 frames per second on console, and they added a bunch of bug fixes. They've added encounters. I don't think it's where it needs to be just quite yet, but I think it had launched like how it launched within the last couple of weeks. Would have been a completely different reception. Not perfect. It's still a flawed game, but I think it would have been a lot better. And, like, it's just baffling to me because it's like, I just wish Microsoft would have delayed it. Especially, like, being October now, Redfall would have been the perfect, like, spooky season game for them. And I think Fallout 76 was in the exact same boat. It launched super buggy. From what I've heard, there wasn't a lot of content at the time. So I think it could really thrive from being delayed a little longer. Also, I think we should talk about the fact that the ZeniMax, like, family of studios was primarily a single-player, like, focused studio family thing. And then they were like, hey, now make multiplayer games. That had to have been at least a little bit of a change, a shift for them.
He's a Sith! He'll kill us all! Kyle, no!
The Oscar goes to
West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains. This game fucking sucks. But you had no choice or roleplay like you would in Fallout 1, 2, or New Vegas. But you...
Right, like, how... I don't know how it really turns out with, like, MMOs. Because, again, that's a genre that I just haven't really been able to get into. But, like, it's got to be hard to create a satisfying role-playing environment when you can't build it around a single player and making an experience good for one single player. Like, you can make a single player affect the world in a single-player RPG. Like, Starfield. Let's talk about the ECS constant. Kind of a flawed quest. It kind of, like, it feels like it got cut in half, if I'm being honest. But there's this really cool moment where I went in and I told the colonists, I'm gonna go help them. And then, like, I was walking through the ship and the dialogue was very specifically like, yeah, we're finally getting out. And then, because the quest wasn't really finished and there weren't a lot of options, I chose what I thought was best, which was to help them get a grav drive, and so they could go find a different planet. And then I walked around the ship after that, and the whole mood of the ship had shifted, and, like, the colonists were just really sad. They're like, man, I really thought we were getting out of here, and now I don't know how long we're going to be on the ship, and this sucks. And that was a really cool moment for me, because it was like, my actions are affecting this world. And same thing with, like, the Crucible quest line, where I let Genghis Khan out into the world, and as I was playing, I actually ran into him multiple times, and update, I finally was able to fight him and kill him, and I have, stopped this scourge from, destroying the galaxy or whatever. That was really cool, because my actions directly affected the world. But how can you do that in a MMO, right? Because everyone's actions are now affecting the world. Like, how are you as a game developer supposed to, like, keep up with all of that? And to make a game that does, you know, change the world based on everyone's actions, like, it's just not possible. I mean, it could be. I'm not a game developer, but it doesn't sound possible. It doesn't sound easy. So I think that's really why Fallout 76 failed, because you couldn't have, like this guy's saying, that Bethesda magic.
Also had no Bethesda magic either. All you had was Fallout 4's game design, which is an outdated mess that didn't really succeed at doing anything besides providing a cool setting, but take that magic out the setting, and the game is dead. Nobody's gonna shoot death claws with no end goal for hours to find some happiness in their life, unless they have brain damage. That's a whole nother story. Also, I lied earlier. Bethesda...
Okay, listen, as somebody who's just been hunting terramorphs for hours, I can't speak for anyone else, but I probably would hunt deathclaws for hours. Because I've been hunting terramorphs. So there's just something satisfying being like, hey, there's this super strong enemy out there that I can go kill, and I can get paid for it? Hell yeah.
Bethesda's not the only one who makes Bethesda games, and it's not Obsidian. They made an Obsidian game unlike the others. Another really good Bethesda game is Cyberpunk 2077, made by CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk is something I was so excited to talk about in this video. I'm like a kid on Christmas, because Cyberpunk is the best example of Bethesda magic that's not from Bethesda, and it's also a great reason why you shouldn't trust shit from anyone who glazes this fucking game. Fallout 4, Cyberpunk 2077, and Starfield are all steps down from games like Oblivion, New Vegas, and many more RPGs, as well as open world games. But Cyberpunk 2077 has received more backlash than both Fallout 4 at its release and Starfield as of now,
Listen, besties, they comeback of the year, right? But I definitely think Starfield 2077 deserved most of the backlash it got. Maybe not all, but like it was a buggy mess. It launched too early, and if I'm being honest, and I think, again, like I talked about earlier in the video, I think it's just a setting thing, but aside from the bugs, I still kind of thought the game was boring. And again, that's just my personal opinion. And I even went and downloaded Cyberpunk 2077 and brought it up, and I jumped into my save, and I ran around the world for a while, and I was like, meh, still boring. Closed the game and immediately uninstalled it. And maybe I think I need to go back and give it a proper try where I just start the game over and really give it a good try from fresh eyes, right? But like, I don't know, I'd heard so much great about this update. I think maybe I overhyped it in my mind too much, and that's on me. That's not on the game. But I just, here's how badly, like, Cyberpunk 2077, like, or how much I dislike that game. Even, like, I love Starfield, but I hated any time I had to go to Neon because it made me think of Cyberpunk 2077. Anytime I had a mission there, I was like, I just need to get this done so I can leave this city. And since I stopped streaming it and since I've beaten the game, I have not returned to Neon once. Like, that is how badly I dislike Cyberpunk 2077. But, like I said, I think I need to go and just start completely over. I think re-downloading it and starting from my previous save was a mistake. So I will give Cyberpunk another try at some point, and a real try, but it just hasn't been my vibe so far.
Makes you question, what would the noise be around Starfield if it launched as a buggy mess that ran like shit? Because Starfield has some of the exact same problems as Cyberpunk, but since it's at least playable, the Bethesda magic can take over skepticism. Where for Cyberpunk, you didn't get that Bethesda magic until years later, when it was playable and everyone
I think that's fair. Again, I think, I don't know. I don't know, actually. I agree with him mostly. I don't know if I agree with his first statement where he said that Cyberpunk in 2077, that's the same game. Cyberpunk 2077 and Starfield suffered the same issues aside from, you know, the whole playability thing. I don't want to sound mean, but at least, like, I don't think they suffer from the same issues. Like, Cyberpunk and Starfield both kind of overpromised, but I don't think those things are on the same level at all. Like, Cyberpunk promised here, and its game was here, and I think Starfield promised here, and its game was more like here, if that makes sense.
Gave it a second chance after its popular anime, and recently people loved its new expansion.
Don't forget, the game is fixed.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Was that an actual ad? Was that an actual thing? That's amazing. I love that. Okay, maybe I will. Just for that ad, I'm going to go play Cyberpunk 2077 again.
7 had so much hype because people expected it to have the RPG freedom of New Vegas and the city scale of GTA 5 and the main story and open world polish of Red Dead Redemption 2.
You're a good man, Arthur Morgan. Good man.
Okay, yeah, he's making a really good point because I think that's one reason I really dislike Cyberpunk 2077 so much was because I overhyped it in my mind way too much. Way too much. I went into Cyberpunk 2077 expecting it to be my favorite game of all time, and that was just not the right mindset. And that, again, that's my fault.
And the looting and gun variation of Borderlands 2 is also announced 7 years before its release date, had a bunch of delays to clean the game up. It was also just a really cool game premise.
Be my man.
Looking at my bitch, I bet she give your ass a bone.
And at launch, besides being unplayable, it was just Fallout 4. Cyberpunk 2077 is fun to play. It's a cyberpunk theme park ride. You could choose life paths that don't really affect the game. You could shoot people from different factions that don't really get fleshed out, and there's also no consequence. You could do a bunch of interesting side missions that teach you about its world while not having any impact on it. You can meet a bunch of side characters that you don't really have an impact on either, but might enjoy. You could gun through the main story where the only impact you have is getting some side characters killed by forced progressive decisions. And that's Cyberpunk 2077.
Okay, I think that's another reason I didn't necessarily enjoy Cyberpunk 2077 is because I was, like, bulldozing through the main story quest. I wasn't really doing many side quests, and I think that also hurt my experience. Like, and I think that's what hurt my experience with Fallout and Skyrim, too, because I'm a strong believer that, like, main quests should be enough to, like, entertain the player base. Like, you shouldn't depend on side quests. That's at least how I felt. I don't think I feel that way anymore. Like, really getting into the Outer Worlds and to Starfield now, I'm starting to see the value of side quests and how, like, main quests shouldn't be the only thing. Like, we should really be able to enjoy side quests and explore the world and just go off in random directions. And again, this is all, like, my experience growing as a gamer because, like, I just kind of wanted to do the main quest and enjoy the story, and I think that's the wrong way to play RPGs. Which, then there's this whole conversation of, like, should there be a wrong or right way to play RPGs? I don't know. What do you guys think?
A lot of the game's problems also apply to Starfield, but Starfield is not equal to Cyberpunk. Starfield does a lot of things worse than Cyberpunk. Also, Cyberpunk is 3 years older than Starfield, and Starfield came out 8 years after Fallout 4. Bethesda is not an indie company. They are a AAA game studio that is constantly getting outclassed by everyone around them. Hell, they still can't even live up to their B team that they fucked over in 2010 after making them look like fucking fools. A game not being buggy at launch should not be the standard. It's not an accomplishment. And running at 30 FPS...
Listen, I disagree. I disagree. In this day and age, it's sad. I agree, like, it shouldn't be, but it, like, at this point, it is an accomplishment. Like, I love Jedi Survivor. Probably my second favorite game of this year. And, I mean, that was a hot mess at launch, too. More for PC players. Console was okay. Not perfect, but it was okay. At least in my experience, because that's what I played it on, was console. But, like, it shouldn't be the standard. But I do think just because it shouldn't be the standard, or the, you know, it shouldn't be an achievement for a game to launch pretty much bug-free, I think in this day and age, we should celebrate the developers that do take the extra time to make it bug-free, if that makes sense.
FPS on modern consoles shouldn't be applauded either, nor should telling people to get better PCs because Todd can't optimize a game at launch to save his life.
Yeah, that was not cool, Todd, my man. Listen, not the best look.
We do push the technology, so You may need to upgrade your PC for this game.
Joseph Anderson made a statement once about Skyrim, and this is how I feel about Starfield. It's like a very shallow but very wide puddle. It may be very basic fun to splash around in it, but there's still so much to play with it. I didn't hate Starfield when I played it. On the contrary, I actually had a lot of fun with Starfield. I'm not Eeyore, the Grinch, or Garfield, okay? Bethesda magic works on me. In 2015, I was in 8th grade and I got Fallout 4 for Christmas, and fell in love with the post-apocalyptic Boston. And now as an adult, that Bethesda magic has once again done miracles on me. I sat in the custom creator and made a bunch of funny guys before I settled on Drizzy himself.
You don't actually played anything yet.
No, I'm just trying to make Drake.
It's not gonna happen, little bro.
Dude, your video's not gonna come out. You're gonna spend the entire time in the fucking character creator. You're never gonna play the game.
Embarrassing.
That's fair. I think I spent, when I was streaming it, I think I spent almost an hour in character creator. It was fun. There were so many options.
I flew my little spaceship and got into dogfights. I found the Batcave and explored a bunch of planets. I learned about the world and its politics. I killed monsters and pirates and aliens. I got hooked. War never changes. My friend Typo made this really good analogy. He said that playing Starfield is like being Andy from Toy Story, in both good ways and bad ways.
You have cancer, Andy.
No! No! Sorry, if you haven't seen Meat Canyon's Toy Story video, you should go check it out. And I really like the perspective he's taking for this video, because there is just so much fun to have in Starfield. Like, once you get lost into it, it's really hard to exit that, if that makes sense. Like, you just get lost and you are just lost in it continuously.
I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor.
You roleplay in your head when you can't in game sometimes. In Cyberpunk, I always felt like a cool bounty hunter, doing contracts and getting paid. But in Starfield, I actually get to be Boba Fett. I got a sick-ass spaceship and a space babe, and I kill people with that spaceship. And I'm also bald, and I get beat up by sand natives with sticks. My life was just like the ending of Chicken Little. Starfield has the basics of what space games won't let you do, like Outer Worlds, Warframe, Outer Wilds, No Man's Sky, and many others. Your ship has a purpose. You will get in dogfights and do hyper jumps. You're gonna board enemy ships and clear out pirates. You could be a moral gunslinger or a thief. It's a great first-time experience if you allow it to be, and you're gonna have fun with its general concept. But when I finish the game...
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, it's so easy. Like, there's just so much to do. There's a stupid amount, a dizzying amount of stuff to do. And I think there's a lot of the games that he brought up, like, there's definitely a lot of conversation to be had on what they did better versus what Starfield did better, what they did worse, but what Starfield did worse. You know, it's a lot. There's a lot of debate. Like, the Outer Worlds, again, I've talked about this when talking about Starfield multiple times on my channel. The Outer Worlds is one of my favorite games of all time. And, like, there's no, like, it is a fantastic space RPG, and yet you never use your ship. It's all, like, people complain about Starfield and its space exploration, but it is leagues above what Outer Worlds is. Outer Worlds is literally just go in, you open the map, you pick the planet you want to go to, there's, like, a little cutscene, and then you're on the planet. There's no ship customization, there's no dogfights, there's no boarding other people's ships. There's one encounter that I can think of where you board someone else's ship, and it was kind of underwhelming, if I'm being honest. And I'm not trying to trash on Outer Worlds. Remember, this is one of my favorite games of all time. I just think it's so weird because, like, I've seen people compare Starfield to Outer Worlds, and I've seen people compare it to No Man's Sky, and it's like, well, No Man's Sky had better exploration. And that's fair, right? And then they compare it to the Outer Worlds, and they talk about it being a better RPG. But then at the same time, Outer Worlds was only like a 20-hour game, right? It was much smaller, and it was much more focused. And you're missing out on a lot of things that you get in Starfield, like actually being able to fly your ship and customize it and have dogfights, you know, and board enemy ships. And then, like, No Man's Sky, which I haven't played, this is just based on what I've heard, but don't take everything I say super seriously, right? Because I could be wrong. it really excels at like the exploration side of it. It's a much better exploration game, but then you don't get as deep of an RPG mechanic. So I love Starfield because I think it's this really like sweet middle ground between these two games, if that makes sense. But again, it just comes down to personal preference and personal taste. I don't think it's necessarily better or worse than either of these games.
I started talking to friends, and the things I thought were unique to me were no longer unique. And then I thought about other games, and the Mysterio illusion began to fade. You see, after riding something like the Cars ride at Disneyland...
Okay. So what college do you girls go to? Oh, you're in high school? Could have fooled me.
We're gonna keep using Disneyland, but...
Lightning McQueen, no! Also, I don't know. Again, I'm not sure what him and his friends did. Yes, most of us did the Mantis quest, right? But I don't think that's to say we all had exactly the same experience. Like, I brought this up in the Beat 'em Ups video. There's this guy on Reddit that talked about being in, not Aquila City, in Neon, and just, like, spending 14 hours building a drug empire. That was a really unique experience to him that I did not have and probably will never have. So there are still unique experiences. But again, there are a lot of quests like the Mantis one that, yeah, most of us are probably going to have because it's a good quest and it's a really easy quest to find.
By the way, since they got fun-themed rides. But after you ride the Cars ride, a question will pop into your head after. Do I want to do that again? The ride was fun for the 3 minutes it lasted, but to get those 3 minutes, you had to wait in line without sitting down for an hour in the beaming California sun.
California safe!
But for the first time, you had that delusion of experiencing something new. So you were okay with doing all the annoying stuff because it was a new experience. Starfield was extremely fun because it was new. I haven't played a Bethesda game in forever. I also love space. I love shooting stuff. The graphics were pretty. I get to be Space Batman. I also did a bunch of missions that were fun. But now that Mysterio illusion is gone, a lot of stuff in this game pisses me off. Starfield is a technical marvel that pushed all...
That's fair. I think that's fair, especially, like, especially with new games, you either go in with red-tinted glasses, you go in with a very, like, neutral, like, eyes, or you go in wanting to hate the game. I think, of course, the neutral's the best way to look at it, but you go in with those red-tinted glasses and you have a really good time, but maybe you don't have a good time the second time you play it. Does that invalidate your first experience? And that's a conversation I want us to have in the comments, because I don't think it does. Like, yes, I think we can go back and we can play it and we can say, oh, yeah, okay, this could be better, this could be better. But I don't think that should negate the fact that you did have fun the first time. Like, I'm sitting at 170 hours roughly in game right now, and like I'm getting pretty close to being done, if that makes sense. Like, I can tell that I'm not going to be playing Starfield for much longer. But just because I'm over it now, does that invalidate the 170 hours that I had an absolute amazing time? I don't think so.
All technical limits. In 2014, maybe, Starfield's graphics are passable due to the game's neat NASA punk art style. But in comparison to games like Red Dead Redemption 2 or even Cyberpunk, Starfield's not going to blow you away. Which is okay, because
Red Dead Redemption 2, I still need to play it. I was talking to somebody in the comments like a week ago. I'm waiting for Undead Nightmare 2, and I'm thinking, I was like, I'm going to wait and play Red Dead Redemption 2 when they get the Undead Nightmare DLC. And I'm starting to think it's not going to happen, you guys. So I can't compare it to that, but Starfield, as just like average running around the world exploring, looks better than Cyberpunk 2077. I think Cyberpunk 2077's like peaks where the graphics look the best look better than when Starfield looks the best, if that makes sense. Like, on average, I think Starfield has a better look, and it's probably exactly what he was talking about, just the NASA punk aesthetic. I think there's just such beauty in, like, walking around, like, a forest on a random planet. It's so beautiful. It looks so good. And I think that looks way better than just, like, walking around Night City in, like, a normal area. But like I said, Night City at its peaks definitely beats Starfield, no question.
Graphics aren't everything when it comes to a video game. Sorry, Kratos.
I am hungry.
Sorry, Joel, but I like wearing a chicken mask to kill people in a pixelated environment. But when your game isn't a graphical marvel and also acts dead on the inside, we got a problem. Cyberpunk.
Ooh, okay. That's something else to talk about, the whole Cyberpunk Starfield connection. Like, I think on average, Starfield looks better. Peaks, like I said, Cyberpunk is better. And I think at its worst, probably at their worst, I think Cyberpunk still looks better, if that makes sense. Like, Cyberpunk has higher highs and Starfield has lower lows. I don't know. I hope that makes sense.
Punk is a big city to play in. It's still limited in some ways.
Okay.
You can't go inside every single apartment complex. But Night City is still massive with a lot of different areas to explore and kill people in. Also, the NPCs in the city aren't dead on the inside. NPCs will always have a limit for how many models are going to spawn in.
That is very fair. That is very fair. Look, the fact that she reacted to him pulling out the gun, way better than Starfield.
This even happens in Starfield, so this isn't a huge problem. I mean, you're only going to spend like 3 seconds to see if a dude has like a pair of New Religion jeans before you shoot him in the face. But what does matter is how an NPC reacts to your actions, because this helps immersion. Which is surprising to me that Starfield lacks in this department, because this should be a must, since their strongest aspect is Bethesda magic. If you're not going to put a bunch of effort into the RPG aspect, then at least have the people around you act like real people. In Cyberpunk, if you shoot in public, NPCs will scatter. In Spider-Man, if you swing close to NPCs, they'll get scared and fall over. In
Okay, so you do kind of get that in Starfield. People won't run away if you just shoot randomly, which should be fixed. They should run away. If you actually start shooting at people, then you will see the crowd start running, or the guards of the city, plus just random citizens coming to attack you. Like, it is surprising. Everyone is packing in Starfield, okay? Everyone has a weapon in some fashion or another, which I think is hilarious. But, so there is some reaction to it, but it's not as good as it could be.
Grand Theft Auto 5, you have this iconic moment.
Asshole! Hey, fuck you, bitch. You are dead meat. I want to apologize.
1988, you hit a 12-year-old boy.
It's a small detail, but those small details begin to matter, because it makes the world feel real, which helps immersion. Cyberpunk used to have a problem with vehicles in its world, and this made the game get compared to GTA in a bad way, because Rockstar is really good at making reactive worlds. If you shot at cars, they stood still and wouldn't react, but they fixed this now, and cars will hit you and drive off. In Starfield, you can light a place up like a bank robber or point guns at people, and it's just another Tuesday for these guys. You can even flat out light up NPCs without any consequence. The AI civilians in Starfield...
Again, that's not entirely sure. Like, yes, there are certain named NPCs that are important for quests that they don't let you kill, which I see their reasoning behind it, right? Because they want you to still be able to do the quests. I do think it takes players out of the immersion, though, when you're trying to kill someone and you just can't. Like, again, the ECS Constant quest line. I was so mad at those board members. They literally were like, oh, yeah, we could just do an indentured servitude. Let's just do an indentured servitude, guys. It's fine. So I tried to kill them, and all of them were NPCs that I couldn't kill, and that was so frustrating. It takes you out of the immersion. But everyday NPCs you can kill, and there's consequences. Like, you can get bounties, other NPCs will try and kill you, so it's not as bad as what he's describing, if that makes sense. But it still could be better.
Field aren't the brightest tools in the shed. Rest in peace.
That shit bussin'.
They all walk the same and react the same, and I know the AIs of other games aren't perfect. They could still sometimes be jank, but when you look at games like GTA 5, which released in 2013, as well as Cyberpunk, it's disappointing how flat Bethesda NPCs still are. And like I said earlier,
I've praised Starfield and critiqued it in many areas throughout the, like, I think close to 25, 30 videos I've made on Starfield since it launched. I still think it came out too early. Like, I've had a blast. I've really enjoyed it. I think it could have cooked a little longer, if I'm just being honest.
this all hinders immersion, which essentially is Bethesda magic. And something else that doesn't help is how you get around. Starfield has the same old Bethesda problem of teleportation exploration. It is tedious and obnoxious. But on the bright side,
I disagree. And again, this is just like personal opinion. I don't mind how you get around. To me, it's like a better version of the Outer Worlds, like we were talking about earlier. Because the Outer Worlds was very similar. You go to your map, you say where you want to go, and then you go there. But then you're just there. At least with Starfield, you get the option to, like, fly around a little bit and, fight people and board enemy ships, and there's all kinds of different encounters you can have, like the guy who sings the sea shanties, or the casino, the abandoned casino you can just find, or the grandma, or the USC constant, which I keep bringing up for some reason. Like, there is just a stupid amount of encounters in space. So like I said, just a better version of how the Outer Worlds did it. So I personally don't mind. Again, it just comes down to personal preference. I like the map. I think it's really cool that it's this more realistic looking star map. I love that it's 3D. I was one of those people that was like, it makes no sense. I'm at this planet, and this planet's right here. Why do I have to go to all these other planets? And then you turn the map and you realize that they're actually like super far apart. I love that kind of stuff. But again, it's just personal preference.
at least have an SSD. Fallout 4 was hell on earth to deal with. You could go into an elevator and go on an entire Forrest Gump adventure and come back to still have 30 more seconds. Loading screen after loading screen after loading screen, and 2023 is a problem. It was already...
Yesn't. I agree there should be less, but most of the time the loading screens are like 2 seconds. Again, I'm playing on the Xbox Series X. I have an SSD. That does affect it. It's probably not as great for people playing on hard drives. Sorry to everyone who is, but it doesn't bother me like at all. It's just it can be a little annoying, but like I said, most of them are like 2 seconds at most. They hardly hinder gameplay at all.
Already a problem with Fallout 4 in 2015. Having to do an animation to land on a planet, to then do an animation to get out of your ship, to then do an animation to get inside a door makes me want to stick a ray gun in my mouth and meet God. To use the...
Okay, to be fair, though, there are ways around that. Through the fast travel mechanic, you can just, like, you can be on one planet, and then you can just fast travel to another planet and skip that completely. There's no ship animation, there's no getting up from from your seat, there's no, like, leaving the ship. You can skip all of that if you want. Or, let's say you land on the planet, you don't have to get up. There's also an option to just exit the ship and skip, getting out of your chair, walking to the door, getting out of the ship. That is 3 different options for handling how you want to do that. And I really like that. It gives players choice. Now, could it be a little better? Of course. But again, I don't think it's as bad of an issue as he's making it out to be, just because you have options to do it differently.
Elevator in Starfield requires a loading screen for each floor to then go into a loading screen for another area. Games have been eliminated.
Not entirely true. So in some areas, yes. There are other areas. It's like the New Atlantis thing where people were complaining, Beat 'em Ups was complaining about having to use the tramway to, get between different districts in the city. And if you actually just explore, you can see that, oh, I can just walk from here to here. I don't need to do it. And it's the same way with Starfield's elevators. Yes, 100% there are elevators that they are the only way you can get from point A to point B. But there are also elevators where you can take the stairs, like in Sidonia. The elevators inside the city, there's a stairway that takes you all the way to the bottom. You can go to each district without using the elevator if you want. There are several outposts, like random outposts, where you can take the elevator into, like, the underway. Or there's a staircase, and you can just go down. There was one more. The well. You can get into the well through the lodge, so you don't have to take the elevator. So, again, this issue he's talking about is 100% a problem. It happens. But it's not plaguing the whole game. There are options to get places without using the elevators. You just have to explore.
eliminating loading screen hell for a while now. One of them being Cyberpunk. In Cyberpunk, the elevator actually works. It goes up and down in real time. A lot of areas in Cyberpunk have you just walking inside rooms instead of going into loading screen after loading screen after loading screen. Even in space, loading screens are still a headache. Loading screen to get into your ship, loading screen to get into space, loading screen to go on a planet, loading screen to get off your ship, loading screen to go into a building. In between all this, you're navigating through a confusing menu to find out where the hell you're going,
I don't think the menu is confusing. I think navigating the map, this map specifically that he's on right now, can be kind of confusing. Like last night, I really need titanium for my outpost. So I was literally just clicking on systems and going through and looking at every single planet. Oh, do you have titanium? No. Next planet, next planet, next planet. I went through like 6 or 7 different systems and didn't find a single planet that had titanium, and then I finally gave up. So yes, this 100% could be better. The menu overall, it's okay. It's not the best, but I don't think it's awful either.
The hell is New Atlantis? I can't find it. This is a...
I think New Atlantis was a bad example. So there are, like, the main cities are literally, like, well, you have to know what system it's in. Oh, what is that? I'm going to use Aquila as an example, because Aquila City, just because I can remember what the actual system and planet and everything's name is. Alpha Centauri. Wait, I got it. Alpha Centauri, Jameson Planet, New Atlantis, right? But that system literally it's named. Like, above the planet, you'll see the name Alpha Centauri, and there'll be a little icon that shows, hey, there's a major POI here. So yes, maybe if you don't know that New Atlantis is in Alpha Centauri, maybe you might struggle a little bit, but it should be really easy to find. You just look at the named systems, or the ones with the POI icons. Non-named location, though, that's a whole nother ordeal. Like, there is no way in game to find those places unless you have a quest there, and that's really frustrating. Named location, though, it's not hard at all.
A Bethesda problem. They're still using the Creation Engine, which is old as hell, causing these limitations.
I believe it's Creation Engine 2, which is an updated version of it. Does it still have issues? Yes, but I don't think it's as daunting or as bad of an issue as a lot of people have made it out to seem.
All they did was polish the visuals and add physics, which is nice. Cool, someone gets to spawn in a bunch of potatoes to get some Twitter likes.
And you know what? That was beautiful, okay? That was a beautiful moment in gaming. We love the potatoes.
Those physics bog down the game's FPS and is not worth the trade-off of seamlessness. AAA games can be seamless. Spider-Man Miles Morales launched with the PS5, and they made it a point to show off the PlayStation's new SSD, and how exiting buildings can now be done in an instant, where on the PS4, this wasn't a possibility. Cyberpunk demands a lot at times, but the city is rendered in real time to avoid loading screen problems. And Starfield is not easy to run either. Like I said earlier,
Starfield's Xbox frame rate might be locked at 30, but critically, it is consistent. Yeah, I don't think I've had frame drops once playing. Maybe, but at least none that I actually noticed. And I think the Digital Foundry video, there was frame drops once. And that was in New Atlantis. And it wasn't even that bad, if I'm remembering correctly, but I could be wrong.
Earlier, on Xbox, it's capped at 30 FPS for consistency, since anything higher is going to result in frame dips, and on PC, it's been shown to have frame problems. No Man's Sky is...
And, okay, 100% fair, right? Like, that's what I was talking about, was the Xbox experience, but yes, PC players are having this issue, which, again, I know there's been a lot of conversation about the whole Starfield only being 30 or being locked at 30 on console, but like I've said before, I would much rather have a consistent 30 than a inconsistent 60. Again, literally as I've said before, a consistent 60 would be preferred, but if game developers, Todd and his team, felt like they couldn't hit that, I'm 100% happy with 30 frames.
Is also a space game that has seamlessness. You can land on a planet, leave your ship, explore the planet, get back on your ship, and leave the planet all in one move. The loading screens ruin immersion in Starfield. It makes it feel like you're moving from preloaded box to box. You are not in a spaceship, just a transition screen.
I don't don't think I would say ruin immersion is fair, but I do agree with him about the whole, like, feeling like you're moving from box to box. Again, personally, that doesn't bother me, but I do think he's right on that, and that's going to come down to you, the consumer, the viewer, if it is something that's going to hurt your enjoyment or not.
And it begins to bog down the game because you're not docking onto another ship. You're clicking A on a space door to get teleported to another loading screen, to then click A again to go to the next generated box.
I will admit, so overall, it doesn't bother me, but there are a couple spots where it's literally like door, loading screen, super tiny hallway, door, loading screen. And it's like, why did we need that specific tiny hallway in the game? Why did we have a loading screen for this little tiny thing? So again, I don't think it's as big of an issue as a lot of people make it out to be, but there are certain areas where it does bother me, but not many.
It's intrusive. There should be loading screens for hyperjumps and for leaving planets. That's it. Everything that happens in preloaded spots should already be generated.
I think that's fair, especially, like, I'm sure we're going to get around to talking about the whole tiles argument. I haven't watched a single video critiquing Star Wars or Starfield that hasn't talked about tiles. So, again, I'm totally okay with tiles. 170 hours in, I haven't hit the border of a tile once. But I think saying they are doing tiles, it probably would have been okay for, like, the outposts and the caves to not have loading screens. New Atlantis, maybe you can make an argument for loading screens or for some of the shops just because there's so many people and stuff or whatever. But I definitely think out in the wild, there's not really a good reason for there to be loading screens. Like, if you could go to the whole planet, like, to walk from one end to the other, okay, yeah, maybe there's an argument there for having loading screens and different, boxes blocked off from each other. But it's not like that. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I should be able to board ships seamlessly. I should be able to open doors seamlessly. And we cried about this.
I think I'd be okay with that. I think it would be better if you could just board the ship, get up, and walk in. But how would you guys feel about, we have the same docking animation that we usually get that's hiding a loading screen, but instead of having a loading screen between your ship and wherever you've docked, you just open a door and could go through. I think that would be a minor improvement that could really help a lot. You're still having to deal with the loading screen, but maybe it's not as bad. I don't know.
When Fallout 4 came out, but now you have SSDs, so you just gotta deal with the black screen for 2 seconds unless you're stuck in an annoying force animation to trick your immersion. Also, if you have an old hard drive on PC, then you could go f*** yourself. So with all these annoying loading
yeah, like I said, people with hard drives, I'm so sorry. This probably does suck.
screens, the star map also made me want to go meet God. Open map, set course. Open map, set course. I want to go back to New Atlantis. Where's that again? Oh, I can't remember, so let's do the mission to talk to Sam Coe so I could go back to New Atlantis.
Again, for other places, totally an issue. For New Atlantis and, like, named locations, it is not hard at all. Like, just by playing the game, you learn where these places are. New Atlantis is in Alpha Centauri system. Aquila City is in Cheyenne. Neon is in Voli. The clinic is in Vernask. I can't remember how it's pronounced, but there's the whole colony war that happened over it. Oh wait, no. The clinic is in Narion. And the Narion War was started because of that, because the people of Narion didn't like the fact that the UC set up the clinic in their solar system. So they joined the Freestar Collective, which launched, a couple of years later, tensions rose, launched the war. For Nask, it was a farming colony that the UC started, that the Freestar started, which the UC felt like was a violation of the Treaty of Narion, which then started the colony war. Like, these locations are really easy to find because they're literally named on the map. Again, I think he has an argument for unnamed systems and finding them. But I think using New Atlantis is a bad example because it is super easy to find these places.
Atlantis, and then after set course to the next one. Let's go to the key. Oh, you don't have strong enough grav drives, so let's make you play a game of Clue on where to go to then be put into 3 loading screens to get where the fuck you want to go. Grav jump.
To things on that. You don't play a game of, oh, where do I need to go? Like, it's super easy. You just, the key is in, oh, what system's the key in? I don't remember off the top of my head. But again, it's one of the named systems. It's Crix. It's Crix's system. It has the POI location, super easy to find. You just click on it, and then it shows you the little map saying, okay, you need to jump to this system, then this system, then this system. There's no guessing about it. Like, just follow the line. It's really not that hard. And then, yes, he's completely right. If you want to do it that way, you have to jump from location to location, a lot of loading screens. What I will say, doing it that way, though, increases your chances of having more random encounters, which I think is a benefit. But again, it's just going to come down to your personal play style. Like, do you want to have these more random encounters, or do you want to just go where you want to go, right? And it's not even like I'm fully on this side or I'm fully on this side. Like, sometimes, like, I like having the random encounters, but sometimes there's nothing, and it's like, why am I here? And other times it is frustrating. I'm like, I just want to go to this place. But also other times it's amazing. It's like, oh, I just had this really cool encounter that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't do it this way. But also, like I mentioned, you can do the whole space flying thing, or you could just click on the key and fast travel directly to it and completely cut out the, this whole issue that he's talking about. Now, you cannot do this to places you haven't been before, right? So that can be frustrating. But you don't have to do it the way he's describing. Again, I still think he has a valid argument. I just don't think he's considering the fact that Bethesda gives you more options.
Jumping multiple times in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Also, I think it leads to a satisfying upgrade system as you're increasing your ship, but you're also, I think it's, there's a perk, I can't remember what it's called. It's Astrodynamics, I believe, that increases the range of your ship. Then you can get companions like Sarah, which increases your Astrodynamics, which lets you jump further. And then, like I said, there's the whole ship building aspect of it, where you can build better ships that can jump further, which I think adds to a very satisfying progression system.
Volume 2 was seamless. It also made Baby Groot throw up. But in Starfield, it's a chore and made me want to throw up as well, but not with excitement. You can't even do 3 grav jumps back to back. You have to play with the menu before, and it's animation after.
And again, there's a whole way that I got stuck. I literally stuck my chair under there and got stuck. For this, yes, if it's out of your fuel range, you have to use the menu. But there's also an option where you can just hold your X button if you're on a controller. I'm not sure what it is on PC. And if it is in your fuel range, you'll just jump to that system. No menus allowed. And I made a little video where I was talking about, I was like, man, I wish you could do the same thing for planets. And then after that, I learned that you could do the same thing for planets. You just have to bring up your scanner, and then it'll show you all the locations, the like POI locations that you can go to. What I will say is this only works for POI locations where there's only one thing. So like it doesn't work for Aquila or New Atlantis because there are multiple places you can land. There are multiple little of those like diamonds, which forces you to open the menu. But let's say you're doing a bounty hunting mission and you're going after a pirate in a robot factory. In space, you just bring up your scanner and it says abandoned robot factory. You just hit X to land. No need to open your menu at all, and I love that. And I really hope that they, I think one way they could fix this is just like you hold X and you get a little message saying you'll need to do multiple jumps. And then you jump to the system. And then you're in the new system, you look where you need to go, hold X, jump to the next one without having to like bring up the map and plot your course, if that makes sense. Because you're trying to get there as fast as possible, right? It's not like, I mean, I guess maybe you'll choose to go somewhere else, but if you're trying to get to a quest, like, you can just, yeah, I think the system would work because you're trying to do it as fast as possible. So I would totally be okay with jump. Let's say I need to go from Alpha Centauri to Serpentipus. And let's say my path is Alpha Centauri, Cheyenne, Sparta, Serpentipus. Serpentis, I believe is the system name. So instead of jumping from Alpha Centauri to Cheyenne, instead of having, it bringing up the menu and me saying, okay, I want to jump to Cheyenne, and then I can jump to Sparta, and then I can jump to Serpentis, I can just hold X, it'll give me the message saying, hey, this is going to take multiple jumps. I jump, it says, you are now, Cheyenne system, when it pops up where you land, whatever planet you're at, and then you're like, okay, cool. And then you move, you hold X, you jump, no menus, and then it's like, hey, now you're in the Sparta system. And then you move where you need to go, hold X, jump to Serpentis. And then you still get the journey of, I don't have enough fuel, but I'm making these multiple jumps. I'm getting multiple encounters, like I said, which can be really fun, but it cuts out the menus. Man, I've gotten on a long tangent. This is a very specific issue that only applies if you don't have enough fuel. And I've gone way too deep into it. But I do think it could be improved. 100% this system could be improved. But like I said, it's only an issue if you don't have enough fuel, which is something that can be solved through, like I said, upgrading your ship, getting companions, you're getting the right companions, and leveling up. All right, so my recording is officially an hour and 20 minutes. I'll probably cut some of this out, and we are only halfway through the video. This is going to be a long one.
After animation with the clunky map in between, like, holy shit, Mass Effect even had a better system in 2000.
Ooh, so I haven't played Mass Effect. I like that map. That's not a... I like Starfield's map, but that's actually pretty good. I wouldn't mind something like this. What do you guys think?
2007, but hey, at least you get to explore hundreds of awesome planets. Zelda, Red Dead 2, Elden Ring, The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk all have a lot going on for them in their open worlds. Starfield is now a thing of its own, and the idea it has going for them could work greatly. Having not a huge world to explore but a bunch of mini worlds with unique things is a good idea. It's what No Man's Sky did, but Starfield just does it so poorly. Planets have procedurally generated content, which means that the cool stuff you're going to want to explore is auto-generated from planet to planet. And in between these locations, all you have is boring shit to scan, and sometimes random wildlife that has really bad AI, and abandoned areas with pirates looting. And unlike games like Far Cry or even Halo Infinite to an extent, no factions lay siege to any planets, so you're not going to be fighting for territory claimed by Spacers, Ecliptic, Freestar Galactic, Varun, Crimson, or even the United Colonies, which is just a missed layup. Like,
I agree and disagree. Okay, so I don't think it's fair comparing Starfield to all these games because exactly like he said, it's not the same. Sorry. I made such a bad idea. There's like on caps, you have the little cap, the little button here. I put my headphone right on top of it and it hurts like hell. I'm never wearing a hat again. So I don't think it's fair because he's completely right. It's a bunch of mini worlds, not one massive world. It's hard for developers to... There's no possible way you could get a Elden Ring level of detail in each of these tiles, if that makes sense. So what's really cool about the way the tile system works is every single pixel on a planet that you could possibly click on is its own tile. Like we talked about, you're blocked in. It's several kilometers by several kilometers square, and that's all you get loaded in. Again, I don't think that's an issue because 170 hours, I have not hit it once. So that is hundreds to thousands of these. Like I said, every single pixel is a tile. That's hundreds to thousands of them on each planet. Or moon, and there's 1,000 planets and or moons that you can land on. There's no way you can get that level of detail in that many spaces. So I really like the way Starfield has handled it. I think there's beauty in the emptiness sometimes. I love the time frame that this game is set in, where humanity has reached across the stars, but we haven't populated the stars, if that makes sense. I love getting to walk around a world that is untouched by humanity. It's so beautiful and it's so calming, and I think it's something that this game does really, really well. Now, again, I think it could be better. I do think each of these tiles needs more to do, but I still think there's beauty in what we have right now. Now, in terms of the whole laid claim to thing, it could be better, but we do kind of see this. Like, when you go to an outpost, there are Ecliptic there, or their House Varun there, and they are fighting you as you're fighting through it. And there's like whole lore things as where like the Colony War, there were all these outposts and space stations that were built as they were fighting through space, and the UC and Freestar just completely abandoned them. And House Varun and the Ecliptic basically said, and the Crimson Fleet basically said, hey, those are ours now. And so they do kind of lay claim to them. So it's not as in-depth as I think he wants it to be, and I think that's fair. Like, I think he's completely right. They should be more in-depth, but I think he's not – I don't think he's being as honest about it, because you do see a lot of the other factions. And, like, it's not even just scanning plants and fighting animals, which I've talked about before, is one of my favorite parts of the game. Going around and getting to see all the different, like, alien creatures is so cool. So cool. I love it. But it's not just that. Like he said, there's outposts, but there's also just, like, ships will randomly just land. Like, House Varun, Ecliptics, Spacers, Crimson Fleet. They'll just randomly land. And, I think we're fair. We can talk about spoilers here, but I'll give you a warning. I'm going to start talking about spoilers. 3, 2, 1. And the Starborn also will randomly land and attack you. Well, if you run into them. And then, like, you can steal their ships. There's also civilian ships that land that I think some are inaccessible. Some you do have the option to steal. So there is more to it than what he's giving it credit. Could it be better? Yes, 100%. But again, I think we should look at this game honestly and not just say, there's only outposts scanning plants and killing aliens, if that makes sense.
Imagine if you could strengthen allegiances in Starfield by conquering claimed areas in the name of whatever house you chose, taking over.
Yes, okay, 100% agree. I think that, sorry, we watched like 5 seconds of it, and here I am pausing the video again. I 100% agree. That would be such a cool system. But, like, lore-wise, there's the Treaty of Nerion, which kind of says, hey, you cannot do that. Like, that's the whole reason the Colony War was fought, was because Freestar went and claimed a planet. So, I do think that would be cool, but they I don't know, lore-wise, they'd have to change some stuff to make that work, or else we'd be fighting another Colony War. Which, then, maybe this is a great idea for a DLC or a sequel, but, like, maybe that is what starts the Colony War. Maybe you join Freestar Collective and you claim planets for them, and then UC finds out, and then a whole nother Colony War starts, and, like, that in itself almost sounds like a whole nother game. Would it have been cool and great in this game? Yes, 100%. But, like I said, lore stuff, I don't know. I don't know. And like List, I've seen a lot of people talk about List and how they wished that the outpost building was I'm sorry, I don't know who originally said this, or I would credit them. Their idea was that outpost building should be tied to List, and that you're building outposts for these like ununited colonists to go like start colonies. And I think that's a great idea. That's a fantastic idea. But when we're talking main colonies, UC, Freestar Collective, they literally cannot do that without going to war. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Over space or claim territory for the United Colonies, or raiding United Colony territory for the Crimson Fleets. It would strengthen the factions in Starfield.
Crimson Fleet doesn't have a lore reason stopping it. Just saying.
And give a fun shootout for these empty planets. Tell me sweet little lies, Todd. These planets are boring. You are coping if you think scanning animals, rocks, and plants is engagement. Random space battle dogfights are fun, so why is there...
I like it! So sue me! Is it the best gameplay ever? No, and it can get a little tedious sometimes, but that's what's great about Starfield, because there are times where it's like, I want to go be a beast hunter, and I want to go find a planet, and I want to go find the, like, craziest aliens that I can find and just start hunting them. And that can be really fun. And then never do I go scan plants, like, just 2. But it's something that, you know, let's say I'm beast hunting, or I need titanium for my outpost or whatever, and I'm on a planet mining titanium. Like, I'm gonna scan those plants. Like, it's there. Why not do it, right? Again, it could be better. 100% it could be better. But I still have fun. I have fun, and I'm not ashamed. I like doing stuff like this. And again, it's not the only things you can do on planets. And I think he's not giving a fair representation. Again, he's completely right. There should be more. But there's also more than what he's talking about.
Nothing happening on foot. And you know what's worse about this filler? Is exploring the filler. It sucks. If you're gonna give me boring wild areas, then let me traverse it, Todd. Why is everything spread so far apart with no traversal or incentivizing manipulation? Breath of the Wild was designed to constantly keep you exploring on foot by giving you distractions, and to get these distractions you are able to climb and glide and get a horse when necessary. In Red Dead you have a horse, in Skyrim you have a horse, in The Witcher you have a horse, Minecraft you have a horse, in Cyberpunk you have vehicles, in GTA you have vehicles. Elden Ring, a From Software game that was famous for backstabs and rolling, has an interesting world full of life, and even then, you have a horse, because walking is not fun. All you have in Starfield is a jet boost, not even an alternate mode so that you can continuously fly like Iron Man, because to do that would mean that you could also have fun in space, which means you'd have to exit your ship and fly in space, but this is Bethesda, and that means more game design. This is possible, by the way. People found an exploit to see what it would look like, but hey, the modders will find a way to make this a reality, so let's just not do anything. On planets, you will run.
So I agree. Exploring in space would have been amazing. I'm baffled that we can't do it. We literally have a jetpack. There's literally a mechanic for flying in 0G. 100% no reason that shouldn't be in the game, right? I'm going to say something a little controversial that I know a lot of people disagree with. I don't mind that there's no vehicles. Do I think vehicles would make the game better? Yes, 100%. Has it hurt my enjoyment that there aren't vehicles? No, it hasn't. And I think what it really comes down to is the immersion of, like, being lost in these uncivilized planets. It's that whole phrase, it's about the journey, not the destination. It's walking around, finding random plants, finding random animals, having a chance to, like, mine for materials, randomly running into whatever alien faction lands on the planet. I do think it would be better with vehicles, but at least me personally, I'm okay that it doesn't have vehicles. It has not hurt my enjoyment. That's not true. The only time it's actively hurt my enjoyment is on the mission board when you have to fully scan a planet. When it is literally required to beat this quest to fully scan a planet, yeah, I will admit, that did kind of hurt my enjoyment. But the rest of the time, I don't really care. I think their vision was to show beauty in the journey, right? Should there be more on the journey? Yes, 100%. But I'm okay without the vehicles. I really am. Now, mechs are another thing. Give me some mechs. But cars, I could take them or leave them.
Run till you're out of stamina, which is very little since the upgrade for it was bugged for 2 weeks. Then you boost over and over again. But Skipper, all the horses and cars are in open world games. This is Starfield. It makes no sense. You know who is smart enough to understand that gamers are going to get bored of exploring empty places with the intention of going from point A to point B? Bungie. In Destiny, you will fly to places intended for stuff, and instead of forcing you to walk, they give you a space motorcycle. And this was in 2014.
Okay, maybe a space motorcycle would be pretty cool. I'm not gonna pretend like it wouldn't be.
A year before Fallout 4. If you're gonna be lazy, Bethesda, then just own it. Just let us be able to click a button to park these ships at these places. You know, since we can't do it ourselves like you would in No Man's Sky.
I will admit, that is really frustrating. When you, like, click on, the abandoned mech factory, as an example, like I brought up earlier. It is very annoying to click on it and then land, and it'd be like, oh, this is 1,000 meters away. Why would I logically land so far away? And what's weird is there are times where you land right next to it, and then other times you don't. And I'm not sure why it's like this. Maybe there's an in-game exploit for landing right next to it, and I haven't just found it yet, but I don't know, and it does baffle me a lot.
I would rather have a cutscene to get where I need to go rather than running and boosting over and over again. It's boring. Traversal is such an important part to exploration because it lets you be able to experience these great places but not linger around so much that it gets annoying. Red Dead 2 is a gorgeous game with a gorgeous world, but having a horse allows it to become such a great backdrop while I traverse it. Same with so many other games. So for Starfield to have such boring areas with bad traversal ruined a lot of the Bethesda magic. You would have thought that the traversal and loading screens were the end of the stop and go experience. But we also have...
I just want to appreciate the Cult of Lamb music for a second. Really do love that.
Weight limits. Weight limits are in a lot of games. It's to stop you from having literally every item in your inventory, because you don't need all these little damaged machine guns next to the big kahunas.
I need that one, though.
What's annoying is when weight limits start to affect the game in a negative way. That's what happened in Starfield a lot. In Starfield, when you're above weight capacity, your oxygen burns even when
I'm gonna let him
just
finish
walking.
his weight
And when you
capacity
run out of
point
oxygen,
before
it
I
starts to get replaced by
bring up a
CO2
counterpoint.
that begins to damage your health. This is a hindrance. You do not want to go over the weight limit. So to not deal with this problem, you have to neglect a core part of the game. Most of my playthrough, I avoided materials and junk because it made my experience horrible. But even food and aid items would add weight, which meant that I got
Food and aid need to be different menus, and I stand by that. That is one of my biggest critiques of the game.
Punished for looting and exploring. These gameplay choices are awful, but even with them in place, why is the base and max weight limit so low? Weightlifting was the first perk I fully upgraded.
Me too.
But even fully upgraded, it's only 219 pounds. So throughout the game, I was constantly dumping resources and junk, which meant I couldn't ever craft or research. I know you could put it into your room at the lodge, but I didn't find this out until after I finished the game. Also, I'm not gonna ruin
that sucks. Sorry, bestie.
The game by carrying 100 pounds of office supplies to then just dump it at home. Even my spaceship was always at full capacity, so I could...
I mean, did you consider adding more cargo? Did we... I'm sorry, but did we not think about that?
Should the Frontier have more cargo space? Yes, I 100% agree. But like my main ship, the Renegade, has over 3,000 cargo space now, and never is it even close to being full.
You can never loot in space, and this is going to be most people's experience in Starfield. They aren't going to go play Minecraft or add optics and lasers to guns or upgrade armor, because to do so ruins the game's experience. And you're going to constantly be finding new guns and armor anyway, so what's the point of making the game a living hell for something that's not even worth it? It's old game.
I'm sorry. I wanted to let him get through his point here, because we're only 25 minutes in, and I'm 140 minutes. Sorry, not 100. An hour and 40 minutes into my recording. I think this is like I've disagreed with a couple of his points, but I think this is the one I genuinely feel the strongest about. Starfield's encumbrance weight system, I think, is one of the best in video games. And do I think it's perfect? No, but let me explain. Yes, there is the weightlifting perk, but then also one of the random effects for your armor lets you add either 20, I think it's 10, 20, or 40 extra weight capacity stuff. Weight capacity. So that, let's say it's 219, so that already brings it up to 259. Then certain attire, which you hardly ever see your attire. So if it's that big of an issue for you, just pick a piece of clothing that has a +5 to your weight capacity. That brings it up to 254? Wait, no. My math. I'm losing my math in my head now. So 249, 254. Then you can add pocketed slots to your equipment. So that is another 20. So that brings you up to 274. I must be going crazy because with my Mantis armor, I have a max capacity of 290. How I get there, I can't think how I got there. But I have at least been up to 290, and it's possible you can even hold more. I'm not sure. So 219 is not the max. Then, if you are within 250 meters of your ship, you can put stuff in your cargo hold. You do not have to go all the way back to your ship to put stuff in your cargo hold. So there's that as well. Then you can give stuff to your companions. Each of them have... I could be wrong because I hardly ever use it because I don't need it. but I believe base, they have 175 carrying capacity for each companion. And then through, I believe, the leadership skill, you can upgrade that. I could be wrong on what skill that is. And then on top of that, if you're worried about encumbrance, just use the personal atmosphere power. And I know you don't get that till later in the game, but it literally ignores encumbrance. Just pop that bad boy, you have full oxygen, and you have full oxygen until that power runs out. And then you can use quantum essence to make that power last longer. Or if you do New Game Plus, you can upgrade that power so that it can last longer. There's so many ways in-game that it lets you ignore the weight, right? Or it lets you improve that experience through just, like, playing the game. Then he's completely right. The Lodge has unlimited storage space, which is really great early game. And then once you start outpost building, I complained about this before. It's not perfect, but you can build storage containers to start putting all your resources in. But the game gives you so many ways to deal with this. And if you're smart with what you pick up, it's not really an issue. Like, yes, I think there are players that play more of a hoarder, you could say, that, yeah, maybe this is a bigger issue for them. But as long as I'm, like, in between missions, like, I've just made that part of my routine. After I finish a mission, I get on my ship, then I sleep to get full health back, and then I move anything into my cargo hold that I don't need. And like we talked about, I don't even think I know I brought this up originally, but, like, I don't know if I brought it up in the whole other things you can do. You upgrade your cargo hold. Like I said, my cargo hold is like 3,000, somewhere, I would say 3,000, and then somewhere between 3,200 to 3,700. I don't even know what the max capacity is because it's not something I ever think about because I never hit it, because I upload stuff, and then when I'm in a city, I either sell it, or when I'm at my outpost, I just put stuff in my storage containers. The game gives you so many options for actually dealing with weight. And this is my favorite way Bethesda has handled encumbrance. The fact that you just lose oxygen is so much better of a system than what is it? Skyrim, that's what it's called, where it slows you down. And then, like, Ark, if you have too much in Ark, you literally cannot move at all. That is way more frustrating of a mechanic than just losing oxygen more quickly. Oh, and then, like, not even just that. You can also get equipment that gives you more oxygen. You have a perk system that, yes, there's the weightlifting one, but there's, I believe it's fitness that increases the amount of oxygen that you can have. Then in the actual crafting thing, you can choose options that give you more oxygen. Then there's a random effect, I can't remember what it's called, but it gives you, there's one that makes resources weigh 25% less. That's awesome. Then there's another one that you burn oxygen 75% slower. That one is amazing. Like, there are so many options. Yes, it's maybe not the perfect mechanic, and I 100% agree. The base for cargo, your like person, your character, storage, like, these things should be increased a little bit for a better experience. But there are so many ways that the game lets you get around this weight mechanic. Like, I've spent, I think, close to 10 minutes talking about just things you can do to get around it. Maybe it was just 5. I don't know. I'm not paying attention. I am fired up on this because I'm sorry. He didn't know, to be fair. Like, he didn't know about the New Atlantis thing. And to be fair, like, he showed us his ship at 400 whatever the Frontier's base cargo is. Like, that sucks. Wait, no, but he did the Razorleaf quest. We know that the Mantis quest, you get the Razorleaf from the Mantis quest. We know that he did that because he has the Mantis armor. He literally talked about the Batcave. And that, I think, the base ship, I think, has an upgrade to like, I don't even remember what, because I upgraded my cargo almost as soon as I got the ship. But I think it was like sitting at 1,000, which is double the Frontier. And that's such an easy ship to get. Sorry, I am fired up about this subject. I am so heated because The game gives you so many options to get around this.
Game design should have been adjusted after Fallout 4. Cyberpunk did it right. Components in Cyberpunk have no weight. Aid items also have no
Ammo. Starfield has no weight. Aid items have barely any weight. It's like, I think the biggest aid item is the alien, I think it's called alien component that boosts, I think, your damage resistance. He showed it in his video earlier. I can't remember what it's called exactly. Its weight is 1. It is 1, whatever the base system they use for weight. It's 1. So could it be better and those not have weight? Yes, of course. But it's so minimal that it doesn't really affect anything.
No weight. And sights for weapons have no weight either, alongside mods that could be applied to both weapons and clothing.
Weapons do have weight. You can get a random effect that lowers the weight of weapons as well.
Even grenades are weightless, so go ahead and stockpile those bitches. The only things that have weight are clothing and weapons. This makes the game greater, since now you could craft and modify weapons in your playthrough, since you'll always have a sole spot for components. It also helps the game be seamless, since you're not going to constantly be stopping to dump a bunch of junk that takes up a lot of weight. I'm a loot monkey.
Or you just put it in your ship's cargo and then sell it when you're ready. I genuinely... I don't like to say this. I don't, because a lot of it is just personal opinion, right? But he's just wrong about this specific thing.
I love looking in cabinets and lockers for anything I could find. And in every game, I'm rewarded for exploring. Whereas in Starfield, I'm punished. Grenades add weight, junk adds weight, and...
Well, he literally showed arc. It stops you from moving. If you have too much, you literally cannot move. How? I'm sorry, I'm just so baffled. How is that a better system? Not that he specifically said Arc is a better system, right? But he's talking about how he's being punished here. I think this is a very low punishment thing. And, like, the encumbrance, it just makes your screen a little dizzy, and it hurts you a little bit once you run out of oxygen, but it literally will not kill you. There is no major negative effect for just keeping running.
Materials add weight. By the end of Cyberpunk, I had over 400 pounds available, where in Starfield I only had 219. It's stupid.
Like I said, my max was 290, and I think through luck of the random, like, legendary gear and upgrading properly, you might be able to get higher. You may not. I don't know for sure.
Also makes the gameplay in Starfield clunky, since looting mid-fight's usually going to put you above weight limit, ruining the pace of combat. With all these problems, please let the gunplay at least be amazing. Starfield's combat is incredibly aged. The massive change from Fallout 4 is that you can mantle, that
no more ads!
Still feels awkward, and that you can slide. But only if you get a perk to do so, that also feels awkward. And you have a space...
100%. The sliding mechanic in Starfield is awful. It feels so clunky. They really do need to update that bad boy.
Booster. That's it. Other than that, it's Fallout 4 all over again, except not as cool. When I play...
I don't know. I think the combat feels better than Fallout 4, but we're back. Listen, he was wrong about the weight thing. We're back to it's just a personal preference, right? It just comes down to what you like and what you don't like.
Video games, you know what I love? Blood. I was a kid that grew up on Gears of War. I was wall hopping and turning people into slabs of meat. I was popping off heads and cutting people in half with a chainsaw. Did this mess me up today? Nope. Oh, you're a kid playing violent video games? Yeah, turn me to fucking greatness, bitch. Shut up. I'm not a saint or Mr. Rogers. I'm just a simple man that enjoys violence. In Skyrim, decapitating people is a charm. And in Fallout, who doesn't love the fun humor of blowing someone into bits or turning them into a pile of ash, or making a man's head fall into his own arms? Bethesda used to embrace the chaos of dismemberment and violence. And that sentiment was carried to Cyberpunk, baby. You could cut people's heads with a katana, turn them into a kebab, shoot someone's head off, shoot arms off, and execute people. You can loot their limbs on the floor. Even when they die, a pool of blood follows. If they're mostly cybernetic, blood and oil spills out. Hell, even Obsidian did this in Outer Worlds. In Starfield, none of this is present. People just die. No dismemberment, no fun laser burns or people getting turned into ash. You shoot someone, and they die. Not even a cool animation like Red Dead either. Just a default death animation with no wounds or aftermath. It's a regression from Fallout 4, and it also makes no sense since the game is still rated M. In this
yeah, he is right there. I do think the combat feels good, but there could be dismemberment. And you know what? my two favorite stars, Starfield, Star Wars, were kind of both suffering from the same thing, where they're like, Starfield has blood, but there's no dismemberment. Everything that he mentioned. Star Wars, we're still seeing people die. Like, you might see a lightsaber, like, let's say they slash through someone's stomach. Like, you might see burn marks, but there's no more dismemberment. And, like, it's something I didn't even notice until other people pointed it out. Like, sorry, spoilers for Ahsoka episode 8. Again, I'll do another, like, 3-second countdown. 3, 2, 1. The zombies. I didn't really think about it, and then people were like, why didn't they just cut their legs off? And I was like, oh my god, you're right. You're right. They literally just... Again, there was a horde of them. It's not as simple as that, but, like, yeah, sorry. This is just something that, like, I've been really thinking about a lot. And because of Starfield, dismemberment adds to the realism, and it can be immersion breaking when it's not there.
Progression is just how I feel in total about its gameplay. A dead giveaway that Bethesda is stuck in the past is by simply looking down. In 2023, we still can't see our feet, but...
Right! And, like, there's an actual model for your player. There's an actual like, there are some first-person shooters where there's not an actual model for your character. It's just the hands and the gun, because that's all you ever see. From your perspective, right? Like, maybe a multiplayer shooter like Halo, other people will see your model, but you never do, right? Which I know some Halo you can see your feet. I'm not sure if all of them you can, so that may not be the best example. But in Starfield, you can literally change your perspective. There's a first-person perspective, and then there's two different third-person's perspectives at varying different lengths. Why can't you see feet? First thing I check every time I play a first-person shooter, I look down. Can I see my feet? Is it an important detail? No. No, it's not. Should it bother me? Should it bother this person? No, probably not. But it does. It does. And I don't know why.
Bethesda. What the hell? Even CSGO has this. The grenade animation is copy and pasted from Fallout 4, even down to the noise and loss of frame rate on explosions. The boost mechanic...
well, I mean, similar... I'm not sure if it's Creation Engine 1 or 2. So similar engines are exactly the same engine. So, doesn't bother me.
While being neat also feels janky. You either have a small controlled boost or a big boost. But due to the weight problem, it's hard to give yourself options, so you're usually going to be stuck with one or the other. Also, the arsenal is...
The weight problem isn't that big of a problem.
Really bland. For a game set 300 years in future space, it goes back to just being Fallout. Ballistic weapons and laser rifles. Most legendary weapons, like the 2 guns you get from the Crimson Fleet Path, are just reskins of normal weapon types. The gun variation is really low, and they all do the same thing: ballistic and lasers. Guns in Cyberpunk can range in many different ways. Tech weapons that lock on, super weapons, heavy snipers, tech shotguns, missile launchers, a gun that speaks to you.
Could Starfield's weapon pool be better? Yes, 100%. I'm not trying to argue that. What I am saying is that you get a lot of the variety through, one, just, like, there's a ton of different weapon mods. And this guy said he didn't do any crafting, which I think, that's on him, right? But through crafting, you can really build the gun that you want. But then you don't even have to craft. You just... loot enemies, scavenge, and a lot of their guns will have random mods, which I just talked about in my crafting video. There's 4 rarities, so your base, refined, calibrate, we have base, rare, epic, and legendary. And then I was wrong in my video. I said there were 4 tiers, which just affect, I should explain rarities first. Rarities affect how many random modifiers it gets applied, or bonus effects get applied. So base has none, legendary have 3. Then there are 5 tiers of weapons: base, calibrated, refined, advanced, and superior. And there may even be something after superior. I didn't know about superior when I did my my crafting video, but I found out about those recently. It's a tier above advanced that change the just the base stats, like accuracy, damage, stuff like that. And it's not even just weapons. This applies to suits as well. So you can get, like, a legendary superior weapon would be amazing, because it has the 3 random effects, and then just looting from enemies, yeah, it may have no mods, but there's also a chance it could have up to 7 or 8 mods depending on the weapon. And, like, that is where the variety comes from. Maybe not, again, we could have a larger weapon pool, but it's not like I just dropped my phone. Not every Equinox is built the same. Like, they're heavily modded legendary superior Equinox is going to be way better than, like, a base common Equinox with no mods. So is it as cool as Talking Gun? No, but there is still a lot of variety there.
Who is it? What? I should kick your fucking ass.
Johnny Silverhand's pistol with a unique reload animation and melee ability. You have the whole hacking angle.
I would like unique reload animations for legendary guns. That would be sick. I'm not gonna lie. He's got me there.
Cool abilities that could slow down time or make you shoot wrist rockets and shit. Look at games.
Man, it really sucks that you can't slow down time or shoot explosive weapons in Starfield. Man, sure does suck that we cannot do those things. Now, to be fair, are they, well, the slowing down time thing, no, that's not something you can do with the weapons, right? And his whole point is that cyberpunk weapons have more variety, and that's fair. But a lot of these things you can do, like slowing down time, that's just a power that you have that you can do anytime. You don't have to fire a weapon to do it. And then it's not a wrist rocket, which is cool as hell, but you can add, I believe they're called Hornet rounds to your weapons to make them explosive. I saw somebody had a coachman that had, it was a legendary coachman that had double ammo capacity, which I don't know how that works on a double barrel shotgun, but then it also had the Hornet rounds, and he literally was like firing it into the sky. It was so cool, and it was just like raining down explosives on Aquila City. So weapons in Starfield are great. I'm not going to say they're perfect. I'm not going to say there's no room for improvement, because there is. But again, I don't think it's as bad as he's describing.
Games like Borderlands 3 that came out in 2019 even. A bunch of gun types with alternate firing modes, elemental guns, infinity guns. The combat in Starfield is nothing special. What's even more embarrassing than the outdated gunplay is the outdated melee combat. Melee in Cyberpunk is flashy and viable.
Gunplay I disagree with. But then again, it's just personal taste. Melee combat, 100% he's right. Starfield is super outdated. But to be fair, so was Fallout, so was Skyrim. Bethesda just needs to do better with melee combat in general, especially in like this game. It doesn't really bother me because you have guns and stuff, but man, was it so disappointing in Skyrim. I hated using melee combat in Skyrim, and like it was so frustrating because I wanted to do a melee build. I wanted to be a knight that ran around and fought bad guys or whatever. And it wasn't a viable build. You had to either be a stealth archer or mage. And even the mage wasn't that as good as stealth archer. You know what? And I guess Starfield falls from the same problem, right? Like, it's more focused on having a gun build. But at least, I think for me, it's a space setting. So it's not that big a deal. While Skyrim is a fantasy setting. And it should be peak. Like, their melee combat should have really shined in Skyrim and Elder Scrolls above all else, above all their other franchises, and I really hope that's something they improve on in Elder Scrolls 6.
You have a mix of speed and carnage that makes it a beloved delight. Melee in Starfield is outdated, clunky, and aged. Especially since Starfield's gone soft now, it's fucking embarrassing. Like, look at this. Might as well all be fucking baseball bats. No flash, as well as no substance. The magic stuff in the game is pretty nice, like being able to spawn a clone of yourself or shoot a fucking fireball. But other than that, it's nothing impressive. And games from Cyberpunk to Borderlands, even Destiny, all do things better. This whole video has been talking about Starfield's bells and whistles, but now we have to address the massive elephant in the room. And that elephant's name is Jerome, and he's playing New Vegas. RPG stands for role-playing game, and Starfield has been put into a really awkward spot where everyone wants to give it Game of the Year hype, but Baldur's Gate 3 has also released this year, so yeah, no fucking chance, like there even was one before. The original Baldur's Gate role-playing game came out in 1998, and Fallout the role-playing game came out in 1997, and were both very popular. And now it's 2023, and you have Space Fallout and Baldur's Gate 3 showing who's adapted and gotten stronger since that Chicago Bulls dominated 90s era. Starfield isn't just age in its gameplay, but it's also massively regressed as a role-playing experience from games like Skyrim and even Fallout 3.
I disagree with this Skyrim, Fallout 3 aspect of it. Like I said, I was able to roleplay in Starfield in a way that I haven't been able to in the other Bethesda games. Do I have an argument about Baldur's Gate 3? No. He's completely right. They've adapted and changed more than Bethesda and their team have, and that's just kind of sucks. Did I still enjoy Starfield? Yes. Could its role-playing aspect have been better? Yes.
Suffering from the same problems that were in Fallout 4, which was heavily scrutinized for being a massive downstep from Fallout New Vegas. Let's talk about immersion real quick. Bethesda's voice acting is iconically scuffed, like this funny-ass retake in Oblivion.
Wait a minute, let me do that one again.
And this wasn't the only one. This happened multiple other times. You also have Todd Howard himself with an Oscar performance.
That really pisses me off.
And while this is all really fun to laugh at since it's the past, the present jank just pisses me off. Bethesda, with a lot of money, time, and resources, have dropped the ball.
Maybe I haven't encountered it. I have not encountered a Starfield voice line that bad. Again, maybe I missed it. Again, Starfield's voice acting, the role-playing aspect of it, all could be better, 100%. But not once have I encountered something that bad. But I could have missed it.
On immersive roleplay. Starfield is a flat-out embarrassment when looking at games like Cyberpunk and even Baldur's Gate 3, which had less resources and money than Bethesda. Every character is flat and soulless looking, their dialogue is underwhelming, and their writing is mediocre. Also you, yes you Drizzy Drake, suck as a character. The Disneyland ride becomes problematic when you have no influence on where the ride goes. The fun of roleplay is being able to make an impact on the world you play in, which can also progress the story in many different ways. Cyberpunk is a bad RPG and was rightfully criticized. All roleplay was a linear path to the main quest of the game. A great quote once said from Willem Dafoe in the hit animated movie Finding Nemo represents this. All drains lead to the ocean. But at least for a Disneyland ride, the main Cyberpunk quest is a bit interesting. Even Fallout 4 is a bit interesting. Dead guy stuck in my head in corrupt government, and I need to rescue my son who was stolen from me. While being shit RPGs, they both at least can be played as fun movies. Starfield though, the main quest is awful, and the world around you is hindered because of it, making
I disagree. I loved the main quest. And again, this is kind of just a personal preference thing. Instead of rehashing everything, I have a whole review specifically just on the main quest. I found it, but as a summary, I found it really beautiful, really fun. Could it have been better? Yes, but still a really amazing experience.
Yeah, not a fun and critical.
No, Mark, why are there ads after I pause?
Coaster adventure or an immersive roleplay experience. And this is because Starfield has no guts. This whole video, Fallout New Vegas, has been hanging from a string taped on the ceiling being used for comparison. But why, Doktor Skipper? Why do you keep teasing New Vegas? It's because Fallout New Vegas is one of the best roleplay games of all time. Of all time! Way better than anything Bethesda has ever made, including Skyrim.
Personal opinion? I thought it was okay. Like I said, I only got again, I'm not the best example because I didn't beat it, obviously, so I can't talk about its whole story as, a whole, right? What I can say is what was presented to us in the first couple hours was not enough to keep me personally playing. So I don't know. Again, it's just personal preference.
And this is because of the massive guts that Obsidian Entertainment had, giving you the keys to its world, allowing you to do whatever the hell you want. And I mean this, no smoke and mirrors.
Okay, but so is this as a game as a whole, or are we talking about main story?
There's a robot in the game named Yes Man that can't die, and the only reason he can't die is so that you could complete the game. And this is because you are able to kill every single person in Fallout New Vegas if you want to. Unless they're children, but you could get a mod and send those little shits to meet their maker. Having the ability to kill everyone in a game requires a lot of guts, because it means that the game has a ton of alternate choices around every decision you make, meaning that the game's world has a lot of writing and attention to detail. New Vegas and Starfield have very similar structures. You have a bunch of factions with lore and history. In New Vegas, you have Caesar's Legion, the New California Republic, the Brotherhood of Steel, and Mr. House. And in Starfield, you have the United Colonies, the Freestar Collective, House of Varun, and the Crimson Fleet. And under these, you have smaller fish like the Followers of the Apocalypse. And for Starfield, you have the Ecliptic, Spacers, etc. But both games have a lot of players in the kiddie pool. In New Vegas, the main story is that each one of the factions wants to claim New Vegas. So this really basic idea leads to a bunch of nuance that leads to the ending of the game of who gets New Vegas. And the whole story leading getting to this ending is based on what you do. What factions do you have allegiance with? Who do you meet through your adventure to help get you your goals? The game is centered around choice, making every faction important to learn and interact with. But you are not forced to. You could tunnel vision down one rabbit hole and beat the game. You could kill everyone and beat the game. There is no hand-holding. It's whatever you want to do. In Starfield, you have no choice. The game is structured around this boring Unity plot where you're forced to be a part.
Again, personal preference. I thought the Unity plot was so cool. I loved getting to, like, learn about Unity and what it was, and what are the Starborn, and where are we getting these powers from. I thought it was amazing. I really loved it. But, so, I think a big difference from, just based on what he said, to Starfield is, the quests, or not the quests, the factions in Fallout New Vegas played a large part in the quest. Like, that was the whole point. Like, maybe not the whole point. From what it sounds like, that was a big part of the game. Who's going to win this war? Who are we going to help claim this territory, right? Starfield, the main factions have nothing to do with the main quest, and I don't think one is better than the other, but they're different, and I don't necessarily think it's a fair comparison to make. You know, you can't be like, oh, the UC and the Freestar Collective aren't as good because they don't really play a big part in the story like the factions in Fallout New Vegas did. But, like, that's kind of the point. Like, the story of Starfield has nothing to do with the factions. And again, neither's better than the other. It's just a different way to tell the story.
Part of a team that has good moral explorers that want to find artifacts, because why the fuck not? You could beat the main game in 2 hours by playing Minecraft and getting all the artifacts, for the ending just to be that you reincarnate and get stuck in a loop of doing the same events over and over and over again. And because of this, the entire game is all smoke and mirrors. The Starborn are hardly fleshed out and have no end game other than New Game Plus, and since this campaign is so tunnel vision down this one choice, it makes the rest of Starfield play out like a museum. In a museum, you look at stuff and
it's just different. I really like the main quest, and I personally like that the main factions don't really play a big part in it. I think maybe there are a couple areas where they could have played minor roles, but I'm okay with it. And like, I think the whole like New Game Plus, like you're going to a new universe, is one of the coolest ways you can handle a New Game Plus. And like, it's all just like, it's all tied into the lore and the story of why you're doing this New Game Plus. I think it's so cool. But again, it's just personal preference.
See history, but you can't interact or touch anything. That's Starfield side quest.
You can't touch stuff in a museum.
And what do you mean that's Starfield's side quests? Like, the three main side quests, faction quests that I did. Again, I didn't do the region one because that's not really the role-playing character that I want to play. Vanguard, like, you're literally discovering about Vevictus and this whole conspiracy about him being still alive, and he knew about the Terramorphs and that they were heat leeches, and then you have, like, these decisions on how are you going to deal with the heat leeches, and obviously the bigger issue, the Terramorphs, and I think they're called the locust plants or lotus trees, something like that. It's been a while since I've finished the quest. Like, what do you do with these? Are we gonna, we need to kill all the Terramorphs. Do we also, like, kill off this whole, like, species of plants? And then you decide, like, how are we gonna deal with the Terramorphs? I think I already said that, but do you want to go with these giant bird dinosaur creatures, or do you want to do microbes? And then after you beat that quest, like, you have these conversations with the crew, and, like, they either agree with you or disagree with you. And the same thing with the Freestar Rangers quest. Like, you're discovering this corruption within the Freestar Rangers, and you're interacting with this faction that, like, feels betrayed by their people, the people that they fought to defend for, and that's really cool. And then, like, the Crimson Fleet quest, you get to side with the Symphdef or the Crimson Fleet, and literally whichever one you side with, the other faction is gonna be wiped out pretty much. Like, yeah, you'll still run into them randomly throughout the world, but, like, them as a faction, gone. And that is directly connected to what you're doing in the story. The Crucible quest, like I brought up, like, literally, like, you can unleash Genghis Khan on the universe, and he will kill innocent people if you do this, and that is your choice. Which I made the wrong choice. Okay, I'm sorry. Then the one where you're like traveling through multiple dimensions. Can you save this one guy that is trapped in like a hellscape, or do you save a bunch of people who are living a good life? It's the trolley question on like, this guy has a really bad life. Do we save him and condemn all these other people, or do we save all these people and can like leave this guy in this hell-infested alternate dimension? And that's just a minor thing. Like, your choices do matter in Starfield. Maybe not to the same extent that he's saying, especially with the fact that you can't kill major quest NPCs, which again I think should be changed. Let us kill these people. But to say your choices don't matter, that you can't touch the world, I think is inaccurate.
You could do all the side quests for all the factions in Starfield, but it has no overall impact on the game's story or narrative.
And again, sorry, I know I already talked about that, but like that's okay. Like, the narrative doesn't really focus on the main factions, but it still has focus. It's just focused on something else. It's not bad, it's just different, and it's going to be down to each individual consumer as into like what they prefer. For him, it's Fallout, and that's great. For me, it's Starfield, and that's okay too.
Starfield, there is no consequence or karma system, and having no consequence makes this game...
That's not true, though. There's a whole... Maybe it's not as in-depth, but there's a whole bounty system. Like, I literally have a short where I had a, like, $140,000 or credit bounty because I wanted the new Aquila City Guards outfit and killed all of them. Well, most of them. Like, there is a bounty system, and you can get arrested, or you can, like, bribe people to pay off your thing, or there's a bounty board to pay it off, or you can just not pay it off and just, like, guns blazing through the galaxy, killing anyone who tries to stop you. There is consequences. Could it be better? Yes, but to say there's nothing is also not, like, it's just not true.
And feel spineless and lazy. In New Vegas, you could go right up to Caesar and smoke him from the jump if you want to. And by doing this, the Legion hates you, and the whole game changes around this decision. In Starfield, you can meet up with the Council of the United Colonies and try to light them up, but you aren't allowed to. You can't even break allegiance with United Colonies if you wanted to either. You literally can't. If you go to the NCR and light up civilians, you become hated by the NCR, which closes...
Again, I do think he's right on this. Starfield could be better. It 100% could be. But there still are consequences.
Quest lines that could shift how the entire game plays. If you go to New Atlantis and shoot up the place like a terrorist, you get a bounty that you can pay off, and everything goes back to normal. The United Colonies don't hit...
That's a 15,000 credit bounty per person you kill. Not just in total, per person. Just something to consider.
Hate you. It doesn't affect how the story pans out. Nothing. And this bleeds throughout the whole entire game. You have no consequences. I decimated a United Colony ship with pirates, and I was still able to become a United Colony citizen and do an entire quest line for them. I met the fucking council after destroying one of their ships. There's a mission where old Earth people want to inhabit a planet that is claimed by a resort owner, so you talk to the business asshole and you have two options. Give the travelers grav drives so they can find another planet, or blow up their ship. You can't help them invade and take the...
That's not true. You could also put them in indentured servitude. There's that one too. Don't forget. I do agree. Like, I literally talked about this quest earlier. There should have been another outcome, or maybe even two more outcomes to this quest. It just felt like this quest wasn't done. Like, they launched the game without finishing all the options to it. It's one of my favorite quests, but also one of the quests that make me the most frustrated with the game, if that makes sense.
The place over. And you can't stick it to the snobby, money-hungry asshole either. I blew up the ship, and then after I made an attempt to blackmail him. And he gave me no money, so in return I was gonna kill this motherfucker just to find out he's invincible, and that he can't die. The reason he can't die is because it's not written in the game for this planet to become hostile toward you. It's training wheels bullshit. Blow up the ship.
Yeah, again, I wanted to kill these people so bad. So I think maybe something you could do that wouldn't be... I would prefer that you could just kill anyone, right? That would be the better system. But maybe you can't kill certain NPCs until you finish their quest. Like, right there where he was, that quest like was done. You'd never talk to those people again. At least from what I know, I could be wrong. So maybe at that point, then you can kill them because there's no quest tied to them, if that makes sense. I don't know if this would be a perfect system, but maybe this would be a way to let us kill people eventually while still keeping the whole, like, we need them around because there are still quests attached to them, if that makes sense.
Ship, fix the drives, they all lead to the same outcome. Even on the ship, you can't just kill all of them because certain NPCs can't die, which is funny because in order to make a decision like blow up the fucking ship, you have to get a key card from one of these assholes. You can't just kill it and take off his fucking corpse. You have to loot him before. Fucking stupid. During the Freestar Galactic plot, we rescued an injured lady and I felt hateful that day. I was a professional hater. I wanted to be a pirate, so I was gonna smoke this bitch and take her ship. But you can't because you need her to progress the Freestar Galactic side plot, so she can't die. You're hurt.
Yeah, that she plays a massive, like that specific NPC plays a really big part in that quest. So, like I said, maybe just let us kill people after. But Starfield genuinely does need more branching options. Like for this specifically, you kill this lady, and then maybe you go back and they're like, "Hey, that was our second in command. That's not cool." And then they're now at forever enemy or whatever. Like it needs an expansion. I'm not saying it doesn't. I completely agree with this.
Repair my ship.
I think you mean my ship. This game is fucking lazy. In New Vegas, you could be a despicable asshole with no morals if you want to. But in Starfield, no matter what, you are forced to be the good guy, and the moment I noticed this is when I went with Sam Coe to Aquila City. In Aquila City, a gang is robbing a bank, and they have hostages, and everyone outside has their guns drawn. When this happened, my ears pricked up because it reminded me of the Good Spring Battle in Fallout New Vegas. It was a side mission where you got to make a choice. You could help defend a town from a gang, or you could side with the gang and take over the town. So I took this interaction really seriously in Starfield, to then be disappointed. Because there is no choice. You either fight the gang and kill them all, or you persuade them to quit and they go to jail. You can't side with the robbers and fight Aquila City.
So what you're telling me is there's a choice. Again, I agree with what he's saying. It would be better if there was a choice to side with the gang, 100%. But at least there's still some choice on how you want to deal with the gang. It's, again, I feel like he's underplaying some aspects of it.
Burning ties with Sam in the Freestar Galactic, because to do so would mean that you would have to kill Sam Coe, who is viable to the Constellation campaign. So instead of ruining the campaign, you have no choice. Starfield lacks nuance.
Thanks to you, Delgado's cut me from the fleet. Well, you know what? You better get your own fleet, because I'm coming after you.
Hold it right there. You owe the fleet a debt.
If you interfere with me getting some sleep again, I'm going to have you killed. You want to die? Fine.
Even down to the Constellation crew that is riddled with Gary and Mary Sues that can't be killed. In New Vegas, you could talk to factions.
I disagree with the Gary or Mary Sue thing. These people are very complex. It's, again, just like talking to them and getting to know them.
Deem villainous like Caesar and learn his mindset and make a choice on who you want to align your game with. Same with other groups, and by exploring nuance, you learn narratives that you might have not seen before. Like, for example, I learned that the good...
So what you're saying is, in an RPG, you need to explore to learn things? Now, I'm giving him a hard time, but again, based on everything he's saying, it does sound like Fallout New Vegas is a better system overall. But I think the same can be said about, like, exactly what he said about exploring and learning things about the world. Like, it is exactly the same in Starfield. You wanna learn the nuances of the world, you actually have to go out and, like, talk to people and experience the game.
Good guys like the NCR are just as flawed as the Legion. The ways they want to rule the Mojave are stupid, which is the same ruling style of the government that caused the apocalypse in the first place. And you learn this from Caesar, a guy that a lot of people deem the bad guy. New Vegas is a bunch of finger pointing until you make a decision. You can see Caesar's ruling style as bad or good. You can see Mr. House's beliefs as bad or good. Same with the NCR. You have a choice, and all the NPCs have opinions and morals and political and sociological beliefs that vary. In Starfield, the members of Constellation all align with good moral practices under the United Colonies. Even Sam Coe, which objectively makes no sense.
What the hell?
Starfield.
Like, it's just the group. It's literally just the group. Like, the whole lore behind it is that they're the last group of explorers in the stars. And I don't know, it's weird to say, like, this one faction in the game all shares common morals. Like, couldn't you say that about NCR? Couldn't you say that about the Legion? Like, they all share the same morals. They're one faction. And I know the difference is, like, all the different factions played a role in the campaign, while Constellation just plays the main role. And yes, maybe there could be some divisiveness between them, but, like, it's, like, lore-wise and story-wise, it makes sense to me why this group is what they are. Sorry, my cat was trying to eat these napkins. It makes 100% sense. It makes 100% sense to me. Just because, like I said, of who they are. And they even, like, the group even has disagreements among them on how things should be handled. Religion and science, are they as in-depth as maybe I'd like them to be? No, but they have different views on things. And they come from different backgrounds. And, like, that's something really cool I love. Like, Vlad is a pirate who, like, successfully was able to flee the not the Collective, the Crimson Fleet. That's a really cool background. Andreja, one of my favorite characters, is from House Varun. She's literally a spy for House Varun. Sam is from the Freestar Collectives. Walter is a businessman from the Freestar Collectives. Sam is, like, an ancestor of, like, the founding guy for Aquila City. Barrett, his husband, died in the Colony War. Sarah, she led a different group before Constellation, and while she was the leader, it, like, failed. Like, it was shut down, and she holds a lot of guilt for that. There is, like, each of these characters have these really cool backgrounds, and they don't agree on everything. And yeah, it's not the same as, like, having a bunch of different factions fighting each other, but yeah, they're all good characters, which, again, makes sense for the group they're in, but they're not all the same. Oh, we have 3 minutes. Can we get through this before we hit 2.5 hours?
Lore through literal lazy museums. Makes you miss the old days where you can...
The museum was so cool. I love the museum. Again, just difference of opinion. But also, you know where else you learn the lore of Starfield? Talking to people, listening to their stories, finding, like, exploring stuff. It's not all just the museum. Like, the museum is just a very basic look at the lore. If you want to learn the lore, you have to go explore and experience the game.
Learn about the history of factions from factions themselves. The lore of Starfield is that there's a big-ass colony war.
And, like, here's the thing. This museum is biased. This museum is propaganda. It's UC propaganda. Like, I love the museum because of this specifically. Like, the UC lost the war, the colony war, and, like, they paint it as if they were the ones to decide to end the war. And, like, that they were the good guys for that. Like, they're like, yeah, the UC decided that there shouldn't be any more loss of life, so they initiated a treaty. No, bestie, you lost. And, like, you learn that from actually playing the game.
Got resolved and a peace treaty was made that banned mechs and other shit. The United Colonies is pretty fucked when you learn about its history. They're like the Empire from Star Wars that want to control everything. So why the fuck is Sam Coe, the guy who's a part of the people who got screwed by big business, mad when I go against the United Colonies? Same with Andrea.
He's not mad that you're going against the United Colonies. He's mad that you're killing civilians, my brother in Christ.
Who's a part of House Varun, that is a religious fanatic group that was once peaceful until it was neglected by the United Colonies.
That's not true. That's not true. They were peaceful for 10 years, and then they did a whole Serpent's Crusade. And then they realized, like, oh, hey, maybe we shouldn't be the bad guys. And most of House Varun was like, hey, we're chill now. And they spent 50 years saying, like, let's build relationships. And then they went into some weird exile, which we don't really know why And who stayed behind? The religious zealots that still lived by the whole, like, crusade era mentality and dogmatic views on religion and other people that don't serve your God. And I'm sorry, but he's just wrong on this.
Boring views on religion and morals just kept making me think of Joshua Graham, who's one of the greatest fictional characters I've ever interacted with. He's so complex and interesting. He's one of the best interpretations of a Reformed Christian and has made many people who are not religious question where they stand on with their own morals after interacting with him.
I have been baptized twice. Once in water, once in flame.
Okay, that was pretty fire. I did like that.
I will carry the fire of the Holy Spirit inside until I stand before my Lord for judgment.
Joshua is a complicated character that steals the room with every quote. Starfield doesn't have any character like this. Vladimir is an ex-Crimson Fleet member, but he's also buddy-buddy with everyone. He's a contradiction to Sarah's...
Yeah, because these guys are a family. Like, that's the whole point. It's a family of explorers. Yet they come from different backgrounds, and yet they've come together to, like, form this family group.
His beliefs and doesn't have any nuance like he should. He doesn't have regrets, philosophy.
I do agree though. They could have some more nuance, but they're not just as, like, plain as he makes them out to be.
He's just boring, a boring good guy. It makes no sense that these people are all happy government bootlickers. Where the fuck is the Hobie Brown-like character that...
They're, like, exactly what he's talking about. Andreja is constantly critiquing the governments of the world, like Hobie does, but they're not okay with you killing civilians. Like, there's a difference between being okay with you sucking up to a faction they disagree with, and not being okay with you killing civilians, you know? And then, like, even the UC Vanguard quest. Let's talk about that for a second. They heavily... I don't know about Sam, because Sam died. Sorry, besties. Sorry, Cora. Andreja was the one I was hanging out with during this, and she was heavily critical of the UC, and, like, strongly was against the whole Vevictus thing. The only reason she was, like, helpful is because it was a quest to defeat the Terramorphs, which doesn't just help the UC. It helps the Freestar Collective, it helps the Crimson Fleet, it helps List, it helps the Trade Authority, and you know who else it helps? House Varun, her people. Like, she saw that there was a greater good in defeating the Terramorphs, and yet she was still able to critique the United Colonies.
Hates the government and is an anarchist. I watched Mr. Robot and Andor. I know how this shit works. I don't give a damn about the United Colonies. Where the fuck is the rebellion? The only way to get a Constellation member killed is by getting close to
Freestar Collective was kind of the rebellion. We just missed that section of history. Sorry, bestie.
two of them, and then picking a choice that the game makes for you on who gets to live and die. That's it. You can't start a war with these people, murder these people. They're all just dead on the inside, good guys to assist you on this shitty predetermined roller coaster for a shitty campaign. Okay, so the yapper did a lot of yapping. And to make the whole big chunkus of a timeline into TLDR, when it came to Starfield, I'm just so disappointed. It's actually the same kind of disappointment that I...
And you know what? Again, I know I've disagreed with him a lot on some things here, but that's 100% fair. He was disappointed, and, like, his feelings are valid. It sucks that it didn't live up to his expectations, you know? But that's just video games sometimes. You know, you're going to have people like me that love it, and you're going to have people like them that doesn't. Let's talk about Baldur's Gate, you know? Baldur's Gate. It is universally loved. I have not seen a single negative review of that game, and yet it's just not my jam. You know, like I said, I don't like turn-based combat. You know, some games are for some people and some aren't, and that's just kind of how it is sometimes. But again, his feelings are 100% valid, and it's totally okay for him to be disappointed.
I had with Halo Infinite. Bethesda's two previous games had a lot of problems, and they had a lot of time to adapt and change, but they instead chose to play it safe and not put the legwork into being greater or taking a risk. They are
So on that, you know, he compared it a lot to New Vegas, like his, but that was made by Obsidian. Again, I think comparisons are valid, but he just mentioned Fallout 4 and Skyrim, but he didn't really compare Starfield to those games a lot. And I really genuinely enjoyed this game a lot more than Skyrim and Fallout 4. I think it is a huge improvement, but again, just personal preference.
Comfortable with being complacent, and it's most likely never going to change. We're going to repeat the same cycle with the next Elder Scrolls, and then the same cycle with whatever they do after that. Bethesda's games are outdated in every aspect. IGN was fair to not glaze this game. This is not Xbox's saving grace. This is not worth $70. Play it for free if you can, or just don't play it at all, and play great games instead like New Vegas, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, or any of the other great games that have came out this year. If you're
Or also play Starfield, because it is a genuinely great game. Perfect? No, 100%. It has flaws, it could be better in areas, but it's still an amazing game. Like, there's a reason people like me have put 170 hours, 150, 200. I've even seen reviews of people at 300 hours. Like, there is a reason we've played this so much, because it is genuinely good. I think it's worth $70. Yes, play it on Game Pass if you can. Please play it on Game Pass if you can. But I genuinely would have been happy if I'd bought this instead of playing it on Game Pass. I bought the $30 premium edition so I could get the DLC and early access and the art book. To me, that was worth it. I would even have felt happy if I'd bought the premium edition and the base game at $100, $110 maybe after tax. Like, genuinely, I've had so much fun with it, and it just comes down to personal preferences. I think if you can play this game, play it, but don't not play it because people like what is this guy's name?
on the fence, save your money for something like Spider-Man 2.
Doktor Skipper. Don't avoid this game because he gave it a bad review. But also, don't sink 100 hours into it because I gave it a good review. I think if you can try it on Game Pass, play it for 10 hours, give it a good try, and if it's not for you, cool. Or maybe you'll find one of your next favorite games, but don't let people like us sway you one way or the other. Experience it for yourself, because this game, I don't know if I would say that for everything. Like Redfall, pretty much everyone hated that game. It was a big mess. I enjoyed aspects of it. I think it's a game that's going to be really good one day, but no way would I be saying this about a game like Redfall or a game like Gollum, right? Like, there are certain games that just aren't good. Then there are games like Starfield that are just genuinely so divisive. Like I talked about in the beginning of the video, I've never seen a game where people have been so against or for this game. And I genuinely, the best piece of advice I could give you is just try it, because you probably will either love it or hate it, honestly. Go subscribe to my boy Doktor Skipper. I genuinely really liked his video. I really liked his editing style. I think he was very good at articulating his points. It was a longer video, but it never felt like he was really repeating himself, which I think I fell into. I mean, my recording is almost 2 hours and 40 minutes right now. But yes, go check out this guy's channel. Like I said, linked in the description below. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. I am done. I am not going to do another one of these for a while. I can't. Maybe one day. But I love you guys, and if you're still here, you're freaking amazing. You know that? It takes dedication to stay this long, and I'm proud of you, and I appreciate you. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.